the key points that came out today was that they have delivered 2,890 houses that they have delivered, and more is expected. I remember the figures. It's about 839 houses expected to be delivered in June. He also touched on the stands, the safest stands of 300 that will be also handed over to the residents. And in terms of infrastructure and basic services, there are more than 29 reservoirs that have been already opened, focusing on reducing non-revenue water losses. I also remember the mayor also touched on the road and transport. There's also about 40 million allocated for road infrastructure and maintenance. So some of other important points, I remember I was taking notes while the mayor was speaking there. It was in terms of the stability of governance. You'd remember that they are trying to resolve the issues that are raised in the Madlanga Commission. They will also be implementing recommendations and also engaging with the members of the public. So I remember yesterday when my editor told me this, they have reduced the number of the MMC or the mayoral committee members, the EFF. So this is all part of strengthening governance, and one of the things that they have mentioned is in terms of job creation, about 50,000 jobs will be expected to be created.
50 indeed. Are there things that that was said that particularly stood out for you? Because often enough these politicians tend to say the obvious things, but some things jump off the page that warrants attention. What were they, if any?
Yeah, one of the things that stood out for me is that the development of housing, the handing over of houses, because you'd remember that people are suffering in terms of the place to stay. She also mentioned the informal settlement, that they will be ensuring that informal settlement will be organized. People will now get better living conditions. So these housings, the 2,890 houses that are delivered so far, and the 839 houses that are expected by June. So the thing that stood out for me is the time frame. The time frame is where we will be holding them accountable as the members of the media. We will investigate as to those promises were made.
What about and in terms of those promises? I mean, did they go through promises made before and which were delivered and not delivered?
In terms of the promises, I remember it was last year. We checked the reports, and we found out that some of the promises were met, and then some of the promises were not met. Also, the reasons were not given. So we tried today, after the presentation of the State of the City's address, to get hold of the councillor or to get hold of the mayor. Unfortunately, we were not able because they were busy. We wanted to ask as to what were the reasons of these matters not being met.
How was the address received?
Okay, thank you for that question. We've interviewed members of the EFF. We've interviewed also the DA Mayoral Committee. We've also interviewed Xolani Khumalo, yes, from Action SA. They have rejected the State of the City's address, mentioning that the mayor is not taking the citizens seriously. They mentioned that you can't ignore the problems that are raised by the people. You can't ignore also the issues that are raised by the Madlanga Commission. So political parties are not happy with the state of the city's address, mentioning that the mayor or the city is failing to address very basic things like water issues, electricity. I remember the mayor today told us that we have no load shedding anymore. That's where he got a lot of criticism. That no, in some places there is actually load shedding. Also, we have problem of water. So the members of political parties really disagreed or objected to the state of the city's address.
Okay, what happens next? I mean, the address gets delivered. What happens next?
So right now, what we need to follow is the like some sort of the what do they call the implementation of what the mayor is been saying. We'll also check in terms of what he was saying. Remember the 2,890 houses that are delivered. We want to verify as the members of the public. We want to verify if that is true, because what we tend to do is that we just listen and then take it as if it's true. So we want to check if that is true, and also we want to check the time frame that we are given. We will do follow-ups, multiple follow-ups, as to if these things will be implemented.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate you giving your time, which I think in many ways has been a pretty historic, or maybe significant, if not historic day in that region, in the East Rand of Joburg, or the Ekurhuleni region. So much appreciate you giving of your time, Luyanda. Thanks for that. Luyanda Danqa, who's the SABC News reporter covering the Executive Mayor's City of Ekurhuleni address. Now, you may have followed or paid closer attention to that address. If so, well, let's get reaction from you. What do you make of it? Particularly if you're a resident or a citizen of that region, then this matters more to you than anybody else. So what do you make of it? And then in general, if you've heard it, well, you can comment no matter where you are, by the way. I did ask you yesterday, and I'll ask you this today. So wherever you're listening in from, tell me. I mean, today, as you know, I often have these conversations with the Uber driver, and he made the point to say, you know what, when you guys, like on SAFM, he says, when you guys mention the fact that you connected with an Uber driver, we immediately share it on our WhatsApp groups, and we all like, hey, these guys talk about us, right? So I'm just saying that because, as you know, I've said in the last few months, I've noticed the amount of passengers and drivers who listen to SAFM attentively because they hang on to every word of the biggest stories, including the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee, but all the other issues. And they know that they can catch it while catching their, whether you want to call it an Uber trip or a Bolt trip or anything else. So, I mean, that's what they say. Hey, they get it. They certainly share it. But okay, let's hear from you right after this.
It's a space where generations come together in conversation that seek to spark curiosity, inspire innovation, and feed the curious mind. For arts, culture, and robust conversations, join me every weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga as we explore the stories, lessons, and conversations that guide us back to self.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's really measure the pulse rate of all of us. We're going to, is it Roy in the Eastern Cape? Hello. Hello, hi, you live? Roy, hi.
Sorry, hi, I'm here.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I just about this Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Man, I'll tell you something. They disrupted my entire life. My work fell behind. I used to get up at like 1 o'clock in the morning and watch the Madlanga, the clips of it, up until like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then, I'll be late for work. I mean, I had my own company. I had the luxury of that. But I'll tell you something, my data costs during the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, outrageous. I want to sue these people. I want to sue the Madlanga for disrupting my life.
But that's another commission, man. We have it enough. You want to sue them, that's another commission. I get your point.
But I'll tell you something. Now it's like, I was on a drug and bang. Now I'm suffering from withdrawal symptoms. I'm sitting here, but I'm enjoying. I mean, at least you guys are feeding me a bit to keep me going, All
right.
Not a bit. Your show is really, really, adrenaline.
Well, wonderful. I hope you manage to cope. Thank you for that call, Roy.
Yeah, no, I'm getting co-pilot to draw them a letter of the
Oh,
one.
goodness, there. You got yourself
Okay.
covered. Thanks for that, Roy, in the Eastern Cape. So I asked you that. I mean, seriously, what's your coping mechanism in the absence of the Madlanga Commission? Yesterday it was about how many hours you spent, but now how do you cope? Seriously, how do you cope? Chris in Durban, hi.
Greetings, Ashraf. Always a great show.
Much appreciated, Chris. Thank you.
There's a comment regarding the Ekoleleni feedback.
Yeah.
You know, I heard something, I don't know the exact number, about the number of houses the guy's going to build. I'm trying to balance the maths. I listened to either yesterday or the day before where Eskom was talking about something about a couple of hundred of billion that is not paid by the municipalities. If that's not paid, how are they going to build houses?
Well, clearly, I mean, listen, there's a problem across the board, and you know that. So it's a
Yes.
case of
But
like
anyway, great show.
we're battling with that. Thanks for that, Chris. I mean, look, it's as households have battles, they've got 10 priorities, and they've only got money for 5. And then you've got local councils who have got the same problem. Money for 5, 10 priorities. What's a priority? The biggest question is, how do they raise more money? How do they have growth? And if they're not able to manage that in a 30-year period, then what? Paseka in Centurion. Go for it, Paseka. Hi.
My good sir, how are you?
I'm good indeed, right? Topical, USA, Iran. Go for it.
Yes, I'm not sure if you remember this statement. There was a statement in 1 year in Parliament made by Deputy Minister Mondli Kumubele. I'm not sure who he was referring to, that the danger of people in the society and even to themselves is when they lack what is called a lack of self-contradiction. When you say something and then the next thing you say another thing, then the other thing, like that. If you remember very well, during Trump's time in the office, when he got to the office, he raised tariffs to every country, and then he went to public to say China is willing to negotiate. When China was like, actually, we are putting tariffs on American products. We are in no position to negotiate with them. We are not interested to do that. Same thing as what is happening with Iran and Israel and what. Because the man is not a danger only to Americans or even to the world. He's a danger to himself because he doesn't know when he's not telling the truth, or either he's misbriefed about many things, or he knows that what he's saying is not there and all that. Because if you remember, a long time ago, he has won the war. And then after that, he requested reinforcement from NATO countries and all those things, which, by the way, it was not just to create a passage for oil to flow. It was because the minute he knows that Iran does not want to see anyone, or is blocking that deliberately to manage whatever that it was managing, and the minute NATO countries join in to open the flow of oil, knows that there is going to be a war, and that war, and then it begins, is going to be a chaos. So now, at some stage, it just raises questions on what type of leaders that we have. It's not just him in many countries, but he's become the worst person to say many things and knowing that this is not there. It doesn't exist at all. Yes.
Well, I mean, look, maybe
something-
that's the point. Maybe Trump says no president of, I'm going to speak colloquially, no president of no country has pronounced on other things as much as Trump every single day. I mean, just think about, in the last weeks, he spoke about Cuba. And then, before that, Greenland, and then Mexico, and then the Panama Canal became, the American Canal, and, the Gulf of Mexico became the Gulf of the USA or America. Like, it's unbelievable. So either he
Because
can't
even
remember.
even if you check on the Venezuela issue, for him when he spoke, it was about the Venezuela people. When we knew that it was about the oil in Venezuela, because after they kidnapped the president of Venezuela, he started now America being the ones that are controlling the sale
But
of oil.
when you say we knew, how do you know?
Hmm?
When you say we knew it was about oil, how do you know?
Oibo, because many countries, if you check some of the statements because there was a statement he made about George W. Bush failing to take over during the time George W. Bush was the president. Because if you remember, Venezuela was the country that has the biggest reserve in terms of oil in South America. And during that time, George W. Bush could not be able to get control over Venezuela. he put himself and portrays himself as this person who's not going to lose that. So the first thing that he did was to make sure that he gets that. And it was not about the people of that country.
Okay.
Same thing as what is happening.
All right.
Because if you check all these countries that America goes and invade and kill many people and all that, these countries, they've got resources.
Well, listen, we're chatting to Thembisa Pakudi about that, like coming up now in about 10 minutes, 5 minutes time maybe. So do listen. I'm sure you will listen out for that. Thank you for that interesting call. Thought-provoking. I did say, hey, SAFM listeners, those that belong to the National Pulse community, you always get us thinking because you genuinely are so well informed. Just gone 3:30. Here's the news headlines with the other well-informed person, Utsile Saku.
Thanks, Ashraf. Good afternoon. In the headlines, AfriForum says ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula must answer serious allegations of fraud, corruption and money laundering linked to Mbalula's 2016 Dubai holiday contained in what it calls the Mbalula dossier. The Fuels Industry Association of South Africa says fuel supply in the country is currently stable. The association says any reported shortages of diesel are limited to fuel stations, possibly due to panic buying. And the state in the multi-million rand Medicare 24 Tshwane district tender irregularity case has opposed bail for accused one, Vusumuzi Kat Matlala. The state says Matlala is already in custody in connection with another case. Details at 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N14 westbound in Lanseria has delays approaching the R512 exit. The N3 northbound in Bedford View, slow moving on the ramp to the N12 east at Giluli's interchange, and the M1 southbound in Melrose, slow moving towards Colette Drive. In KZN, there's a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound at Chatterton Road, a stationary vehicle on the N2 northbound after Inanda Highway and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Cromboom Road, the N1 outbound is slow moving on Plattekloof Hill, and Main Road slow moving at Cork Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. We start things off with cricket this hour, where the Proteas beat New Zealand by 33 runs in the final T20 to secure a 3-2 series win today. After being asked to bat first, South Africa posted 187 for 4 in their 20 overs. Connor Esterhuizen was the star batter with 75 of 33 balls. In reply, the Black Caps were restricted to 154 for 8 in their 20 overs, with Gerald Coetzee, the pick of the bowlers, taking 2 for 21 in his 4 overs. Vian Milder took 2 for 28 and Otniel Batman 2 for 35. Meanwhile, the Proteas women lost by 92 runs to New Zealand in the 5th T20, losing their series 4-1. In athletics, South Africa has announced a trimmed-down 68-member squad for the 2026 Commonwealth Games, which starts on the 23rd of July. Of August. The updated squad includes 100-meter sprinter Akani Simbini, long jumper Jovan Vuren, and 400-meter hurdler Zene van der Walt, who all stepped on the podium at the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Wade van Niekerk, Luvuyo Mayonga, and Tsepo Chite are amongst those also named in the squad. However, the final team will be announced closer to the event. In rugby, prop Gerard Steenkamp will play his 100th match for the Bulls across European and Super Rugby tournaments, should be he selected to play this weekend. The 28-year-old Springbok loosehead started against the Stormers and Cardiff after recovering from injury, and should be expected to hit his career landmark against Munster on Saturday. In tennis, Coco Gauff says that she still struggles with imposter syndrome. This is after winning over Belinda Bencic to advance to the semi-finals finals of the Miami Open. The 22-year-old, who claimed a 6-3, 1-6 and 6-3 win, is the youngest American to reach the women's singles semifinals at the tournament since Serena Williams back in 2004. She'll meet Karolina Muchova for a place in the final. If she wins, she'll move to third in the world rankings. Meanwhile, Jannik Sinner extended his record for most consecutive sets won at ATP Masters 1000 events to 28 as he reached the quarterfinals after beating Alex Michelsen 7-5 and 7-6. Next up, it's Francis Tiafoe for him. Finally, in golf, Tiger Woods says that he is aiming to play in next month's Masters after returning to action for the first time in over a year. The 50-year-old recently underwent back surgery and made his comeback in the TGL Indoor League, where his Jupiter Lynx team lost 9-2 to Los Angeles Golf Club yesterday. And now Woods says that his focus is regaining fitness ahead of the Masters. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
I tell you what, I watched that Live Golf euphoria in Johannesburg over the weekend. Just the crazy crowds, right? Now, I'm not a natural golf lover. I mean, I follow it, but I'm not really. I've never played the game. I know how it works, but I've just never been on a course once or twice, driving range a couple of times, and that's about it. But Tumi mentioned Tiger Woods. I mean, do you remember that era when Tiger Woods ruled the world? And all of us who knew squat about golf, we all stayed up late at night. If it was in Britain, it would end at about 8 o'clock at night. If it was US golf, one of the majors there, and midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're all watching it because you just wanted the man with the red top winning on that final day. I certainly did. Captured my imagination. Can he ever come back to those heights again? Sure, I'll leave it for you to answer.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an Absa Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. Absa Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the Absa Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Right, so think about this. Mass market, think fast. Fast downloads, fast streaming, fast wins. Because whether you're chasing high scores, chasing deadlines, or chasing the next episode, buffering is not part of the plan. That's why your home needs the power of OpenServe Fiber. Fast, reliable Wi-Fi that keeps up with your life. Game harder, work smarter, stream without limits. And right now, when you sign up before the end of April, you'll score a free Netflix voucher. So don't wait. Level up your home connection with OpenServe Fiber and feel the difference speed makes. Check out the website, openserve.coza today. T's and C's apply.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So we'll talk about voter participation just now. You can continue telling me how do you intend coping? Like, I want to know your coping mechanism of 2 weeks without the Madlanga Commission. In the meantime, what about the people in the Middle East? How are they coping? There's this huge tension, this war, effectively, USA, Israel versus Iran. And what should have been a couple of days is now gone on further and escalated, into different places, right? Then you get the side issues of bombings in the Lebanon, and in fact, key ministers from Israel literally saying their plan is to take over parts of southern Lebanon. I mean, that's how dramatic all of this is, right? There's been talks of, ceasefire, yes, no, if, maybe. Let's find out more about it with somebody who ought to know, Tembisa Fakude, Senior Research Fellow for AfroCID, which is the Africa-Asia Dialogue. Tembisa, as always, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, listen, when we spoke about, I think 10 days ago, I'm sure you said this war will be over in 2 days. And now?
No, I didn't. I anticipated that it might just last for the mourning period of the killing of Ali Khamenei. But, of course, we are now hearing Donald Trump giving us mixed messaging. He said not long ago that he's going to have some sort of a week reprieve. In other words, there will be a ceasefire for a week while they're negotiating his proposed 15-point plan. But of course, the Iranians have said they're not, at least not yet in the mood of negotiating. Donald Trump is basically speaking to himself because the Iranians have dug in their heels. So it looks as if we are for a long haul. I anticipate that it's going to last as long as the mourning period for Ali Khamenei, who was killed by the US and Israel on the 20th.
And to confirm, that mourning period will be how long?
It was 40 days. That's what they've said. So we're looking at least a month and 10 days. This is my prediction. I think that's what's going to happen. But at the same time, the Iranians are not going to be going back to the old situation where they've got no guarantees whether they will be attacked again. And they will insist, of course, on lifting of sanctions. And I think they're also going to insist on the new regime in terms of the management of the passing of ships on the Strait of Hormuz. They've talked about reparations for the US and the Americans to pay for what they've done in the region. And the other discussion that is currently taking place is the exiting of the US military bases in the Gulf to be replaced by something new. So those are the conditions that they have. But Trump, of course, said yesterday that the Iranians have given him a present or a gift, too good to resist gift as far as Trump was concerned. And it involves oil and gas, so we don't know what that is. And the Iranians have said nothing about the gift as well.
But I mean, look, we are talking Donald Trump here. For him to make that point, they've given him this gift that's too good to refuse. Do you think in a normal case, if Ramaphosa said that, you'd expect that there would be a basis to that? Would you say, therefore, that with Donald Trump, either it's true and the Iranians are denying it for whatever their reason is, or in fact, Trump is just playing the joker as he often does?
I think it does. Whatever he says, we must take it to the pinch of salt. He can't be trusted. He said a lot of wrong things and to an extent lies sometimes. So whatever he says, we have to take it to the pinch of salt. And I don't think I understand the repercussions of his rhetoric and decisions. I mean, the fact that you're going to be announcing to the world that you are going to be obliterating the energy supplies and gas supplies and all the other infrastructure in Iran, if they don't do or they don't reach the deal within 48 hours, and then a couple of hours before that happens, you come and say, no, they're willing to talk. I mean, these are serious repercussions. And, of course, for him, it's about benefiting his family and his friends, because we know that there are a lot of people with insider trading who then go and buy stocks, and hours later they make a lot of money. And this is what he's doing, and he doesn't care about anyone else.
So do you think that is his big motive? I mean, how would you know that with certainty?
Well, I think, we are speaking to the Iranians. There are sources within Iran that continue giving information, valuable information about where the status quo at the moment is with this war. And all of them have refused and have refuted the suggestions that there's going to be negotiations. I've been speaking to some of my old colleagues who are currently in Tehran covering this story, who are more proximate to the powers that be inside Iran. The Iranians have made it very clear that it's going to be on their own timing in terms of when this war ends. But in the meantime, they've also insisted that it's just the beginning. They're going to continue with the war of attrition. And we've seen over the past couple of days what they've been doing within the streets of Tel Aviv and other parts of Israel. In fact, I've got a theory. I think the push is not necessarily from Donald Trump. The push is from the Israelis, who now realize that they don't have enough interceptors to continue intercepting these cheap drones that Iran has been sending their ways. Over the past couple of days, we've seen how the projectiles from Iran have been raining without any resistance from the Israelis. So they're in a position now where they want to negotiate, because not only are their citizens living under the bunkers, but you've got all of these missiles that are raining on a daily basis, and they've disturbed normal living in Israel. Kids are not going to school, business is being impacted, and there's an element of fear. So this, I will argue that it's not really coming from Donald Trump, notwithstanding, of course, that we see this continuing hubris from the Israelis, but I think they're on a back foot and they want to end this war.
I mean, let's go back to where it all started, a few weeks ago, that, in fact, what we had heard from the American side, this was a preemptive strike on Iran because they had got wind that the Iranians were going to strike, or alternatively, the Israelis were going to strike the Iranians, and they had to prevent all that happening, and the way to prevent it was to strike themselves. I mean, it sounds completely bizarre, right? But at that stage, there was a plan, right? Do I take it then the plan has not worked out according to plan in terms of, end goals?
Oh, yes, of course. And the initial statements that were given are all lies. We all know, for example, that Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to continue maintaining the state of war within Israel and kicking the can down the road because he knows that when it does settle, he's going to jail. We have since had senior military personnel from the United States resigning and telling us that there was no imminent threat from Iran. Iran has said over and over again that they were not looking at producing a nuclear bomb. You have the Omanis who were negotiating and mediating the negotiations between the U.S. and the Iranians, saying that the deal was almost about to be achieved. Notwithstanding, we had Donald Trump surprising all of us on the 20th of February and going on to attack Iran. The reasons that we've been given initially was about the suppression and forcing Iran to cancel its ballistic missile program. Then you had the nuclear weapons. Then you had the regime change. So at the moment, we don't know precisely what's going on. Now, what we hear is about Iran threatening the United States for the past 47 years. And this is why Donald Trump decided to go. So it's mixed messaging. We're not quite sure what was the motivation to go so quick into attacking Iran. And while they were negotiating, this is what happened. And of course, is that the Americans expect that a man in the form of Mujtaba Khamenei, the new Ayatollah in Iran, a man who has lost his mother, his wife, his father, his children, his sister, and other relatives, is going to be better than his father. I think you are going to see an extremely angry man, even though Donald Trump, of course, would like to believe that he has effected a regime change or government change in Iran. But I think Mujtaba Khamenei is going to be a different leader to his father.
So let's end with this. What then for you would be a win for the USA? We're only talking in this narrow context of USA, Israel versus Iran, right? What would be a win for the USA? What would be a win for Israel? And what would be a win for Iran?
Well, the win for both Israel and the USA is that they did indeed incapacitate the Iranian ballistic missiles, and they've set it back for some time because they've hit the Navy, they've hit the military installations in Iran. So Iran is not the same Iran that existed on the 27th of February before these attacks happened. So in that way, or in that manner, it could be a win. But I think it's going to be a win for Iran and the Gulf countries. One is that you are likely to have the military bases of the United States exiting the region. For Israel, you are likely to have Israel now surrounded not only by Turkey, Iran, and the new reconfigured military arrangement within the Gulf. You have an Israel that is now going to be having less interceptors because this war of attrition has been very costly for Israel. You are talking about the so-called Shahed drones worth not more than $15,000, and you use a $5 million interceptor times the number of projectiles that have been sent from Iran. So Israel is poorer than it was before. But importantly is that the shock absorbers of Israel have been tested. This is a country that has been feared for a very long time by many in the Middle East. And they've been fighting organizations such as Hezbollah and Hamas, who they have not been able to suppress. And now for the first time, they're fighting a proper country with a proper army, and we see what can happen. But the other important thing, of course, is that the so-called Iron Dome, which was something we have been told was impenetrable. We see Iranians who are over 1,500 kilometers away sending projectiles that have to pass airspaces of countries and enter the airspace of Israel with its multi-layered defense system, and they're still hitting cities in Israel, including Dimona, which is one of the most fortified city where the Israeli nuclear facilities is. Iranians managed to penetrate all of them. They bombed Dimona. So there's now, by the way, a commission of inquiry on how did that happen. So you're talking about Iran, who has inflicted serious damage and now doubt and a little bit of bolstered confidence within the region to say, after all, Israel is not as it has portrayed itself over the past years.
So just to end then, at the moment we're talking strategically and effectively militarily with regard to those countries. What impact are these military conversations of all three countries having on the politics of each of those countries and their leadership?
I think the politics now, particularly geopolitics, are certainly going to be in favor of Iran as far as I'm concerned. The insistence on the new regime on the Strait of Hormuz is likely to make Iran very rich. You are likely to have the United States lifting the sanctions. Well, they've already done so, by the way. If you remember, a couple of days ago, Donald Trump said the oil that's stranded on sea, Iranian oil on sea, is not going to be exempted to sanctions. In other words, uplifting the sanctions of the Iranian oil. He did the same in Ukraine. So you are likely to have these sanctions lifted. But we're back to square one with the JCPOA, if you remember, the Joint Comprehensive Program of Action, which was achieved by Barack Obama. Basically, Iran is at the same point. Donald Trump just wanted to scrap all the achievements of Barack Obama, including with the Cubans, by the way. So we're back to square one, actually. JCPOA becomes more irrelevant. And I think you're going to have Iranians who are going to have a much more leverage in terms of negotiating, not only with its neighbors, but with the United States. And I think the country that's going to be isolated after all of this has been said and done and poorer and more vulnerable, by the way, is going to be Israel.
Fascinating insights indeed, Tembisa Fakude. Thank you so much. Back to square one, go back to begin. Bypass jail, as they would say in the Monopoly board, go back to begin. Don't collect your $200. Thanks for your time. Tembisa Fakude from AFRIS, the Senior Research Fellow there. Listen, reaction from you? Of course there's going to be reaction. Let's hear it as well. But let's talk about our local elections and the voter participation survey coming up next.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, so it's been a busy time. Of course, we have to get our act together regarding the local government election. We'll pick up on that just now. Comments from you, Ashraf, the situation in the country, especially in law enforcement agencies, is as if now the Commissioner of Police is summoned to appear in an HR matter. And does this mean that Commissioner Masimola was part of the tender processes that gave Matlala the tender? And I think the IDAC is acting like what people used to call Hollywood style, as these people are not officers but officials in the police, and the news that General Masimola has been named before appearing in court is regrettable and unfortunate, as the country is facing serious consequences if such conduct is allowed, and hopefully there is no wrong agenda in the naming of an accused before appearing in court. That was one long sentence, by the way. I think it's one sentence, TG. No full stops. I'm now just seeing no commas, okay? I've managed to be able to read it. Thank you for that. Well, you've got me thinking regarding that. Right, what else? Remember this name?
Afternoon, Ashraf. Pule here. Ashraf, I have a problem with this guy, Thabo Bester. The guy likes attention too much. When he's not in the news, he's not happy. He does something just to be in the news. And I'm surprised this time the courts, they are even giving him the airtime, the attention, which is wrong. They should have dismissed him a long time ago to say, wait, stop. Because really, the things that he's talking about, like he was a free man when he left prison, no, man, that's not on. They shouldn't give him airtime. They should have stopped him a long time ago.
You think so? Stopped him a long time ago. You don't like him. I don't like Thabo Mbeki, Thabo Bester. That's not me saying it. Okay, just so you know.
Good afternoon, Dr. Ashraf. Dr. Ashraf, I wish we could look into the issue of our fire departments. It looks like our men and women are not well equipped to do their work. They don't have proper machinery to do their work. They don't have step ladders. They don't have proper vehicles. They don't have, oxygen. What happened in Umtata yesterday shows that they don't have the proper, tools to do their work. They are tools of trade. They are something else. We need somebody to tell us, are they well equipped to do their work?
Listen, there are many examples of fire departments being under-resourced. I think it's been well documented.
Joe from Durban. What concerns me is thanks to the colonial ambitions of Israel and America, we're now going to be having huge increases in fuel prices for a long time to come, affecting obviously the downstream, all our costs, drops in GDP, which translates to poor economic growth, loss of jobs, restrictions on jobs, even layoffs. The world economy is going to take a good 1 or 2 years to recover from this, and all because you have two countries hell-bent on destroying the entire Middle East.
Well, interesting you say that concerns you. Of course it should concern you. But, I pick up a lot of stories from the Uber drivers, as you know, conversations with my Uber. And even today the driver said that, he's got wind that the farmers in Mpumalanga struggling to collect, there's a shortage of diesel. And if that continues, they cannot continue with their work on the farm. It's not yet crisis time, but there's sufficient concern already. So you see the domino effect.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Salim. Ashraf, I think Iran has shown America and Israel and the world that they are also a very powerful country, and the weakness of America and Israel has come out. But end of the day, the world will be a better place now that we could see a stronger Iran, and we could see that a country that can defend itself. At the same time, I think the world will be better off now knowing that Israel is weaker. Since Israel was created, the only thing they did was kill, bomb, destroy. So, if there's no Israel, there'll be peace around the world.
But how do you say that the world will be better if there's a stronger Iran? I'm trying to just understand it. Us in South Africa, how do we have a better world because Iran will be stronger? And then you then follow up by saying, Israel will be weaker. How do you know that they will be weaker on this basis? Is it because what? Lack of American support? America's still mega powerful no matter what happens here. It's not going to end in one day, is it? They may retreat in this battle, but it's not like the country has been crushed, has it?
Cheryl here. What amazes me is that people have this selfish outlook that, my flight was interrupted now, and oh, now this is going to happen, and oh, that's going to happen, and they're so selfish about it. What about the millions of Iranians that have been believing and hoping for this deliverance from this evil regime for decades, that have died at the hands of these people and lost family members, innocent people? It's about time somebody stood up and dealt with them, and thank God Trump is doing it.
Well, listen, I think there's a fair case to be made by you and by many others that talks about human rights atrocities in Iran. There's a fair case to be made for that. But to suggest that Trump is the savior based upon his own track record, why would you think he's the savior? Seriously, think about it. Why would you think he's the savior to solve their problems? And it makes the point as if that entire country is supportive of Donald Trump, which is also not true. It's very, very complicated. But why do we think Trump, is he the savior or the Pied Piper? Think about it. This is the National Pulse. Listen, great that you connect to the show. Love it that you engage with us on social media, that you tweet, your Facebook, your Instagram, you do whatever it is. Great that you do that. Send us a picture where you're listening into the show from today. You can WhatsApp it right away. 0614 104 107. You can also tweet it out or Facebook it too. Right now, it's the news at 4. Here's Utsile Saku.
Thanks, Ashraf. Top stories at 4 o'clock. A National Police Chief served with summons and association confirms fuel supply in the country is stable. Good afternoon. The NPA has confirmed to the SABC that Police Commissioner Fani Masemola has been summoned to appear before the Pretoria Magistrates Court. This relates to the multi-million rand Medicare 24 Tshwane district contract. The NPA declined to provide further comment, saying all relevant details will be released when Masemola appears in court on the 21st of April.
The summons were served today, this morning to him. And like I said, even in the morning before we came to this court, we cannot divulge the content of or the charges at the moment until they are presented to him here. Obviously, wherever he is, he knows because it has been served on him. But it's not up to us to be saying it in the public space.
And that was NPA spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago. Meanwhile, the state in the multi-million rand Medicare 24 Tshwane district tender irregularity case has opposed bail for accused one, Vusmuzi Kat Matlala. The state says Matlala is already in custody in connection with another case. He and 15 others, including senior police officers, appeared in the Pretoria Magistrates Court on fraud, money laundering and corruption charges. The state is not opposing bail for the other co-accused. AfriForum says ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula must answer serious allegations of fraud, corruption and money laundering linked to Mbalula's 2016 Dubai holiday contained in what it calls the Mbalula dossier. The organisation has released a report into the matter during a media briefing in Centurion in Gauteng. It says the document forms part of its bid to pursue accountability against Mbalula through South Africa's legal processes. AfriForum CEO Gali Kriel says the matter should not be ignored.
The reason why we had to do this is because we've seen in the National Prosecuting Authority over many years political interference that prevented people in high positions with political connections from being prosecuted. And that is the work we are doing.
The Fuels Industry Association of South Africa says fuel supply in the country is currently stable. The association says any reported shortages of diesel are limited to fuel stations, possibly due to panic buying. It says there's no shortage of diesel in the country. Koliswa Matsingwane is from the association.
As an industry, we maintain local stock levels, and industry continues to import from a range of countries, which then helps mitigate risks. While global conflicts may cause short-term disruptions, a full scale of shortage is currently unlikely unless the war escalates significantly and international supplies decline.
A warning that the following story may upset sensitive listeners, including children. Dozens of bodies, mostly children, have been dug up from a mass grave in the western Kenyan town of Kericho. The exhumation was done after the police obtained a court order to retrieve 14 bodies that were initially believed to have been buried at the site. A government pathologist told journalists that what they found was quite unusual, with bodies stacked in bags. A post-mortem examination is expected to begin today. It's not the first time large numbers of bodies have been found buried in Kenya. In 2023, self-proclaimed pastor Paul Mackenzie was arrested when 429 bodies, including those of children, were dug up from mass graves in the remote Shakahola forest in 2023. Recapping the top story. The NPA has confirmed to the SABC that Police Commissioner Fani Masemola has been summoned to appear before the Pretoria Magistrates Court. This relates to the multi-million rand Medicare 24 Tshwane district contract. I'll be back with headlines at 4:30.
And in sports this hour, Ellis names Banyana Banyana squad for Algeria friendly. Proteas beat Black Caps to secure T20 series win. And Tiafo battles past Atman to reach Miami quarters. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Braamfontein queuing towards Crown Interchange and Eskom Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, on the N3 westbound queuing traffic towards Hammersdale and there's a crash on the N2 northbound at Ananda Highway. 2 right lanes are closed, so you're asked to expect delays. In Cape Town, the N7 northbound in Milnerton, slow moving towards Plattekloof Road and the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This February, fall in love with food that tells a story. From bold new culinary stars to untamed destinations and unforgettable flavors. Gordon Ramsay brings passion, pressure, and purpose to your screen. Gordon Ramsay Uncharted, Sundays 5 p.m. Only on S3. Open up. S3.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's talk about the voter participation survey, an important survey put together by the Human Sciences Research Council on voter readiness ahead of the upcoming local government elections. Now, we know all elections are important. I think this one in particular, the end of sometime around November, particularly so. But there's some significant numbers that we need to understand and the impact that it has. But with me is Sai Mamabolo, the Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission. Sai, as always, thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse.
It's always good to be in your program, Ashraf. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Listen, I was reminded in talking to you that the number that matters for you right now is number 1. And that number is attached to a name called Arsenal Football Club. So I should just tell you that.
It's still too painful. Let's not go there.
It's still too painful. We'll see what happens. Oh, but I'm talking about the league title, maybe. We'll see what happens, right? Anyway, that's the one that really matters. Okay, yeah. Listen, let's talk about this. Some of the findings of this voter participation survey. What's come through?
Quite a sobering outcome. Firstly, that there's almost a general disillusionment with our state of democracy. And with that comes the low levels of trust in institutions of governance, parliament, the courts, the electoral commission itself, political parties, and the politicians. So which therefore means we have a greater responsibility on this occasion to restore the credibility of the political system, because it is only when people realize that the political system has integrity that they will restore the trust and then lead to greater participation when the elections are eventually called.
So, so whose responsibility is that? And I say that because, we have government, we have the political parties, we have civil society, and then you've got someone like yourself, the Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission. Would that be your responsibility too?
Amongst others, it's not our solitary responsibility. It's the responsibilities of all institutions of governance, parliament, the executive, and so on. But we have to play our role, and to that extent, we believe that engaging with the relevant opinion makers, especially in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and the province of Gauteng, which are the two provinces with the highest proportion of voters, that will be necessary. And we are planning to roll out an intensive stakeholder engagement in KZN in the month of April.
I mean, a key part here in the quote is that voters find voting in an election a fruitless exercise. I mean, that's a damning referendum against the electoral system, isn't it?
It's a damning outcome by all stretch of imagination. But I think we have no option. Our future is democracy. Our collective future rests in democracy and people participating in the elections. Because look at it this way, Ashraf. If I vote and you don't, you are inadvertently giving power to decide for you. You are handing over your ability to determine the course of the country to those that participate. So that message has to get land with people that whatever you're feeling, the answer is not in signing out of democracy, but remaining involved in the democratic project so that your voice can always be factored in determining the political course of the country.
You see, what about those who feel that, in fact, this is a misnomer when one says, when you vote, you have a voice and your voice will be heard? Like, how do you tell a person who's actually voted, who lives in rural South Africa, who's had no water for 1.5 years? Hammanskraal or somewhere else comes to mind. Like, what voice that was heard? How do you tell them that actually
it is quite difficult because the study tells us that the reason for the political disillusionment is that the democratic dividend has not permeated all sectors of society to the same level of success. And indeed, the person who is without water, who is without electricity and so on, may generally ask the question, why am I participating? But it doesn't take away from the fact that our democracy is as good as all of us participate. If it remains an enterprise for the few of us, in fact, even the prospect of remediation is obliterated in a sense.
Well, just from your experience then, and I don't mean South Africa, but South Africa, the African continent, and looking at studies around the world, right? Let me not assume anything. Is it a given that the more successful a country is, the higher the number of voter participation? The less successful, that means the bigger the problems, lower GDP, more unemployment, poor service delivery, the less likely of people coming out in their numbers in voting. Is that true, or in fact is that not true?
No, it is not true for all instances. There are less developed countries with very high levels of voter participation. And conversely, there are high levels of high development with low rates of participation. The reality of the matter, though, is that we are not alone in this problem of receding democracy. It's an international phenomenon. The same is happening on the continent. But in our case, the difficulty is that the trust level and the disillusionment levels are more rapid than is the case on the African continent. So our problems are a bit pronounced than is reflected in the results of surveys that were conducted by Afrobarometer on the continent.
Okay, I mean, speaking to that, one of the results comes through is that what is it? Voter participation, something around it does. The survey found that support for democracy fell from 65% in the mid-2000s to just 36% today. That's a remarkable drop, isn't it?
It is. Which is why we're saying that people are somehow signing out of the democratic project, and it is part of our challenge to ensure that they remain invested in the democratic project. Because, frankly, we do not have any other option. Because, the option that we have, in fact, is an authoritarian system, which has its own pitfalls. So let's use the democratic opportunities, and voting is one of them, to correct the ills that beset our political system.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting if we say they're signing out, people are signing out of the democratic project based upon what I think in many ways it may be linked to service delivery. They don't see service delivery as a result of their vote, then they just don't see. It's like the vote is not a key now to a fortune, which is what they had hoped for, right? Do I take it then, in fact, it sounds contradictory, but until then the country doesn't get its service delivery act together, that number is going to decline even further, which then makes the call to support a democratic project even more difficult to sustain.
Of course, you're right in saying people are complaining about the quality and levels of service delivery. And that's the reason they're staying away, signing out, so to speak, out of the democratic project. So really, we have to get the institutions of representation functioning optimally if we are to reverse this. In other words, municipal councils have to function optimally. Resources that are placed at the disposal of those in authority have to be used effectively to eradicate the historical legacies that we have in housing, water, electricity, and so on, because it is those basic issues that, on which people form the attitude they have formed.
Just lastly, so what is your call then to both the political parties and to civil society?
Our call to political parties is that those that are in institutions of representation have to hear what the ordinary voter is saying. It's saying, let's jack up service delivery. Let's ensure that the resources, public resources that are placed in your trust are employed productively to ensure that our historical legacy is addressed. Civil society, they have to join hands with us to mobilize people, make people aware of what the opportunities of democracy are. And one of those opportunities is really going to vote and electing a councillor or a party of your choice. That's the greatest value of a democracy, to be able to say, my vote is going to go to this party, or my vote is going to go to this specific candidate. Anything other than that, it spells a disaster for the country.
Well, as someone who understands that voting and service delivery gives the nation the firepower we need to propel ourselves into something even better, and you as a gunner would clearly understand that. Thanks for your time. Sai Mamabolo, Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube and X at SAFM Radio. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, we should be chatting to Atlenda Mate shortly on that story of the summons of Masemola. That comes up just now, right? Comments, by the way, reaction to the conversation with Sai Mamabola. You may just want to pick up on that in terms of those numbers are pretty damning, isn't it? Ashraf, I'm amazed by people who suddenly care about the freedom of the Iranians but see nothing wrong with the brutality visited upon by the Palestinians. Okay? What about the millions killed by the US and Israel? Talk about Israel and the US bombing of girls' primary school, bombing of homes, hospitals, residential suburbs, and civilians. Those are just two quick text comments. There's lots of comments via WhatsApp as expected, by the way, and you can still tell me your survival kit when you get a chance. In the meantime, let's pick up on the story that's developed big time in terms of what this means for the country. There's been news, as you have heard, first of all, dramatic news of 12 high-ranking police officers and a company director being arrested in connection with the awarding of an irregular 360 million rand tender to the attempted murder-accused entrepreneur Vusimuzi Kat Matlala. That's the one part. Then now we have confirmation that the police commissioner, Nohal, of all people, himself, General Fani Masemola, has been summoned to appear in court on the 21st of April over that same 360 million rand health tender awarded to Kat Matlala. So with me is the police spokesperson, Brigadier Atlenda Mate. Brigadier Mate, I appreciate your time and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
A very good afternoon to you and to your listeners.
Thank you. I mean, I have to tell you this up front. I mean, as a spokesperson for the police, how do you spin a story, if I can call it that, when someone like the National Police Commissioner has been summoned to appear in court?
We don't spin. I shy away from spinning. I just give facts because spinning will catch up with you. But in terms of the National Commissioner, I can confirm that yes, indeed, he was served this afternoon with a notice to appear in court on the Medicare 24 tender. And I must say he remains fully committed to upholding the rule of law and the integrity of the office he served. He has taken note of the charges against him and he's pledged his full cooperation with all the lawful processes. And he welcomes an investigation, a due process that seeks to address allegations of wrongdoing because it's a necessary step that must be undertaken so that we all get to the bottom of the matter. How a person with a criminal background of Kat Matlala, 18 cases behind him, currently under investigation on 4 cases, the attempted murder of Josie Banyo, the attempted murder of Teboho Tobejani, DJ Vetti, the fraud case where he got Eswatini ID fraudulently, how such a character then got a high-value tender with a law enforcement agency, the SAPS. So he's pledged his full cooperation and yeah, that's where we are.
Okay, I mean, the full cooperation is maybe the obvious thing that someone on that level should be saying, right? But just help us understand this so there's no ambiguity around this. What informs the decision to actually summons Masemola to appear to explain the 360 million rand tender?
Look, I don't speak on behalf of IDEC. I don't know what was the decision for him to come and appear. But I can only imagine that he is the accounting officer. He would need to come and give answers as to how this tender went through. But you will recall that the tender was awarded in June 2024. 3 months down the line, there were red flags that were raised by our own internal human resource management that the company was performing poorly. And a meeting was then convened by the Minister of Police. The National Commissioner then appointed an internal audit committee. The contract was cancelled, and there's been further investigations ongoing and so on. So a lot of work being done. 2 officials already suspended on this particular contract issue, and then we have one that we have issued with a notice of investigation and so on, and they form part of those. The 3 form part of those that appeared in court today. So it can't obviously be easy for the National Commissioner himself, but he has really pledged his full support.
All right. So I mean, of course, as you say, let him explain himself when the time comes. But I mean, just the last thing from where you sit as the spokesperson for the SAPS. I mean, 12 high, and I mean it's high-ranking police officers arrested. I mean, somehow or the other, that needs massive explaining to help us and this audience listening on the National Pulse to understand, like, what is going on within the SAPS.
Very unfortunate, because all those pulse set on the big evaluation committee and so on. But it talks to a broader issue that we need to then enhance and improve, really strengthen our internal control, so that a person with a criminal background like Kek Matlala should not even have been awarded such a high-value tender. It talks to the checks and balances even before a tender is awarded, a proper profiling of who we are really giving the tender to. Does this person have the capacity and expertise? And now we know there was fronting on their part. They did not have the expertise and the capabilities to do this job, and that's why 3 months into the contract, they then can't deliver. There's issues of poor performance and so on. But to the people of South Africa, we are still here. We are still fighting time. We remain dedicated and committed, and we feel that this is a necessary process that must be undertaken, so that we really the truth really emerges of how the system was bypassed, how a person with such a criminal background of Kek Matlala then bypassed the system and eventually got the 360 million tender with the police.
Now, we know, I mean, there's these arrests that have taken place, so that's one thing, including Fani Masemola, that's number 2. Then there's the ongoing Madlanga Commission and then the ad hoc committee, as we've been discussing, right? But in the light of what you've just spoken about now, if there are, what's the word, if there are serious loopholes, let's call it loopholes, even potholes within the operating system of the SAPS, you know, one can't actually wait till August and September for the president to make his recommendations. Something has to be done very, very urgently to plug the loopholes, to close the potholes. What's being done?
I think it's a conversation we actually had before court this morning, to say this tender system, the CSD information system, it does, the procurement process does not make provision for actually the SPM officials to then profile who is behind the company. They just look at the company of the profile and they do not interrogate. But that's now a loophole for all government departments to say we actually need then take a step further. And that is why the National Commissioner then last year established the probity audit committee to say before any tender is awarded, profile these people. We can't have a situation where we find ourselves in today, where a person who is in court for very serious charges, GBVF, the attempted murder of a woman, was having a tender and was paid by the SAPS itself.
And there we have it, a day like today, where effectively the SAPS and the investigating bureaus are investigating the SAPS. Quite remarkable. Athlenda Mate, appreciate your time. SAPS national spokesperson specifically. We know there's been 12 high-ranking officials arrested and a company director, but in this case here, a summons issued for Masemola to explain himself. Fani Masemola of all people. So it's a big, big deal indeed, and it has to be taken pretty seriously.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right. So what about your reaction to that? I thought a very, sober but very concerning conversation with Sai Mamabola, certainly regarding elections and the numbers of people wanting to vote and the numbers not wanting to vote. And what did he say? People are, and this is someone who's at the coalface of voting, saying people are signing out of the democratic project. People are signing out of the democratic project. So if they're signing out, then what's the alternative to the democratic project?
You know, for honestly speaking, democratic institutions, the democracy itself is about to explode. Many countries, especially so-called developing, they've really come to see that this was a farce. You know, vague promises. So you can hear even people like Mama Bolo, they've run out of answers. You know, as one is listening to him, you can hear there's nothing coming forth. He's trying his level best, the elder man. You know, there's people like him. They are trying to preserve their privileges, you know, to maintain the status quo. They don't want anything to rattle whatever privileges that they are enjoying. This is Mabena in Mpumalanga.
Thanks for that, Mabena. And quick one before we get to the news regarding the SAPS arrest.
Ashraf, good afternoon. This is Concrete, Epizanner Doubt. Ashraf, I'm curious, man. I want to know the names of that 16 people that I arrested yesterday afternoon concerning that tender of 360 million. Kate Matlala. Please, man. Thank you.
Well, all the names, let them appear in court. And then one by one, those names will be there. But we already know the one of the company owner. And now, of course, we know about Fani Masemola. Let's get to the news headlines. It's for 30 years, Utsile Saku.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the headlines this half hour, spokesperson for the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, Robert Make, says there's currently no planned announcement on relief measures for motorists ahead of the upcoming fuel price increases in April. The NPA has confirmed that Police Commissioner Fani Masemola has been summoned to appear before the Pretoria Magistrates Court. And the Pretoria Magistrates Court has postponed the case against 16 accused linked to the multi-million rand Medicare 24 Tshwane district contract to the 13th of May for further investigation. Details at 5 o'clock with Greg House.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Pretoria, slow moving towards the N4 in Malahleni exit. The N14 westbound in Mildersdorp has a crash before Bears Nadir Drive, and Winnie Mandela Drive northbound in Hurlingham, slow moving towards Mati Avenue. In KZN, there's a stationary vehicle on the N2 southbound after the M4, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale, and there's a crash on the N2 northbound at Ananda Highway. In Cape Town, Beach Road eastbound slow moving along Muizenberg beachfront area, and Stellenbosch Tail Road eastbound in Kuilsriver, slow moving at Nooiensfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, lots to talk about in the world of sport, and who brings us all of that, the delivery from the minister, our own Minister of Sport, to me.
Well, let's start off with football this hour, where Banyana coach Desiree Ellis has announced a 24-woman squad for April's international friendlies against Algeria as preparations intensify for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Captain Refilwe Jane leads the side, supported by overseas stars Linda Motlalo and Amgela Modao, while Hilda Machaya's move to Spain is expected to boost her form up front. Tembi Kgatlana is a notable absentee, but the squad features strong local representation from Sundowns and UWC, and goalkeeping duties will be shared by Andile Dlamini, Kalen Swart and Katlego Moletsane. Elsewhere, 2 of the final tickets to the World Cup will be decided in Mexico as a high-stakes playoff tournament kicks off tomorrow. 6 nations, New Caledonia, Suriname, Jamaica, Bolivia, Iraq and the Democratic Republic of Congo, are chasing the last 2 spots for this year's expanded finals in the United States, Canada and Mexico. Now, the straight knockout format begins with New Caledonia against Jamaica, while Bolivia faces Suriname and Montenegro. And winners will advance to decisive clashes with DR Congo and Iraq respectively, with places in Group K and I at the World Cup on the line. In terms of cricket, the Proteas beat New Zealand by 33 runs in the final T20 to secure a 3-2 series win today. After being asked to bat first, South Africa posted 187 for 4 in their 20 overs. Connor Esterhuizen was the star with 75 of 33 balls, and in reply, the Black Caps were restricted to 154 for 8 in 20 overs, with Gerald Coetzee, the pick of the bowlers, taking 2 for 21 in his 4 overs, Vian Mulder taking 2 for 28 and Atney Bartman 2 for 35. In boxing, South African boxing braces for a thrilling trilogy bout this Saturday as Rock Knapp and Brandon Tace meet for the third time at Emperor's Palace. The junior middleweight clash carries high stakes, with Knapp determined to cement his place as the division's premier talent. Now, at the pre-fight conference, Knapp paid tribute to Brandon's father, Andre Tace, who is a legend of the sport, adding emotional weight to a contest already steeped in rivalry and national pride.
Well, first off, I'd just like to send my best wishes to the Taser family and wish the late great Andre Taser a happy birthday. He gave me my first start as a professional and put me onto the path which inevitably brought me to Golden Gloves and where I am today. So, I think Saturday night will definitely honour him. I think he's definitely proud and looking down on his boys and everything as a whole, as boxing very proudly. Secondly, thanks to Golden Gloves and IME, boxing has grown tremendously in this country, and I think it's going to carry on going that way.
Anything's off with tennis. Frances Tiafoe is through to the quarterfinals of the Miami Open. This is after a hard-fought 3-set victory over France's Terence Atman. Now, the American took the opening set 6-4, slipped in the second 6-1, but recovered strongly to clinch the decider 6-4. Tiafoe's resilience sealed his place in the last 8 as he continues his bid for a deep run in Florida. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Chumi. Let's get to the markets in a moment.
This Human Rights Month, we commemorate a significant milestone, the Bill of Rights at 30, making human dignity real. For 3 decades, South Africa's constitution has been a beacon of equality, freedom and justice for all. Yet dignity is not just written in our constitution, it must be lived, protected and upheld every single day. Join SAFM as we unpack the issues that matter, elevate voices driving change and reflect on the progress we've made while confronting the work that still lies ahead. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Paswane and Patlele's got all the numbers. Let's start with the Remgro, their half-yearly results, Paswane.
Afternoon, Ashraf and your listeners. Yeah, Remgro, this is the holding company invested in a number of share companies. They reflected on a strong half-yearly results with profits as per headline earnings per share up 39%, supported by broad-based portfolio contributions. You can think of Mediclinic has done well, showed well gains, Rainbow Chicken, Heineken Beverages as they increase cash generation. The only weakness comes from the RCL Foods due to the sugar business. Management continues to reflect that they are capable of unlocking value for shareholders. The key question right now is about the momentum and sustainability, especially because of the external risks like geopolitics, high inflation that can pressure valuations of these emerging market assets. But overall, a set of solid results, and the shareholder dividends was increased by 80% to 173 cents. Stock was up 1.5% into the market where there's no economic data to absorb on, but then investors kept focused on the headlines, developments in terms of the Middle East conflict. You can see that the US has sent a 15-plan peace plan to Iran via Pakistan. However, this has helped. This includes the likes of sanction relief. We're talking about nuclear programs being stopped, opening of the Strait of Hormuz, and this has helped stocks rebound, but at a smaller rate because Iran is still not interested in any of these negotiations, and this is causing a lot of stocks to remain volatile in this environment, and reflecting that some of the investors are actually selling into these rebounding levels as they prepare for an escalation trigger as we go into the weekend. Immediate trade levels haven't been broken. If you think of the likes of oil, it's up 1.9% in these peace stocks, sitting at $100 a barrel. The likes of dollar sits at 99.5. Yields haven't broken any key levels themselves because they're sitting at 4.3%. If you think of the US, back home here, we're sitting at 9% before the interest rate decision, reflecting cautiousness, while miners benefited from the rebound what we've seen from the likes of gold rebounding 1.9% at $4,560 a barrel, platinum up 3% at $1,965 an ounce, but still below trend. On the equity front, we saw some rebound activity, but in a bearish trend. We've seen the likes of Nasdaq was up 1.2%, S&P's up 0.7%, Dow's up 0.7%. In Europe, across the board, they're up over 1%. Back home here, we got support across the board. JS is up 2.4%. Resources was up 3.2%. Industrials 1.9%. And financials up 2.5%. On the currencies, continues to be very volatile, but we've managed to eke out gains towards the close of the session. Rand against the dollar is at 16.92. Rand against the euro is at 19.59. And rand against the pound 22.64.
Well, thanks for that. We'll connect with you tomorrow. And remember, we've got an hour of the markets coming up when Jimmy Moyaha sits in on the hot seat or takes over the hot seat 6 to 7 tonight on SAFM.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right time for reaction from you. Love it when you react. React about anything. Iran, Israel, USA, Sai Mamabolo. People are signing out of the Democratic Project. The Fani Masemola story. The other 12 high-ranking officials, police officials arrested. And a company director. And so on and so on. And coping without the Madlanga Commission. All of that and more, right? Hash of the anti-immigrant South Africa, first populist rhetoric from a politician on air at lunchtime today sounds exactly like Donald Trump. If any country should have self-awareness to help a refugee, it's this one. Misanthropic. I didn't see misanthropic xenophobia is indistinguishable from racism. I'm not sure who said it. Perhaps you can give us a name. Yeah. All right. More comments from you about the elections.
Hi, Ashraf. I think the IEC is faced with a mammoth task, and this task is not made any easier by, your political parties who are supposed to be supporting the cause. And you find that during election period and even during election day, you find that they are peddling false information, fake news that challenges the credibility of elections. And young people are put off by that, that's why they don't want places where there's fighting and all that. So, yeah, as soon as political parties realize that what they are doing during election day or in days preceding to the elections, when jostling for votes, it is what will make people or young people to be, to be uninterested in elections or to be apathetic. That's the word. Thank you very much. Spoo from Mpumalanga.
Okay, thanks for that, Sibu. Well, there you are. I mean, listen, I hear what you say, fake news, peddling things. I think what political parties need to be asking themselves is, in their narrative, do they genuinely come across as being there for South Africa, or is it that they come across as being there to entrench themselves?
Afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you for bringing IEC. My name is Kagiso from the Northwest. Look, Ashraf, I just want you to ask the IEC guy there that they are busy coming to us, preparing us to vote for crooks that they themselves, they didn't vet properly to become leaders who at the end of the day are corrupt. Tell them to bring a mechanism whereby we report these crooks after they come and SIEC present them to us.
Well, thank you for that. Talking about crooks, you're talking about parties. Has there ever been a more dramatic day than hearing about 12 high-ranking police officials being arrested? I mean, just think about that. In fact, picking up on that, Ashraf, what a day for South Africa. 12 top management officers arrested and top cops summoned as well. President must do a braai for the Madlanga Commission. Results being seen before final report. Yo, South Africa is a movie. This is history. SAPS, something like management is done. The whole system needs to be flushed. Anonymous. There we are. Anonymous making a point. Ashraf, on the issue of the National Commissioner, I'm never shocked with news. In fact, it's becoming a culture now. Those occupying high situations or seats must go and appear before magistrates, judges since the times of the then late Celebi in the Western Cape. Lamour, so what would be different with this one? From King Mpande in Somerset West. Right, there's lots more voice notes I will pick up on. So USA has declared Islam its enemy. I'm not sure what that means. USA has declared Islam US its enemy. I hope the Gulf Arab countries have taken note, but the heads are in the USA sand. It's a bit unclear what you're really trying to say, but maybe some will deduce what that means, right? Okay, let's talk about these high-ranking arrests. So, to recap, 12 high-ranking officials, police officers, arrested. A company director arrested in connection with a 360 million rand tender awarded to Ket Matlala. And now we know Fani Masemola himself having to appear in court, all linked to this 360 million rand tender. With me is the SABC News reporter, Nonhlanhla Ntshingila, who's been covering that story. Thank you for joining us on the National Pulse, on a day when the pulses are clearly racing.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's been a very long day regarding this court case, hey?
It certainly is. Tell us more.
Well, what happened in court today, it only came to our attention as they were about to conclude that also General Fani Masemola is involved. And like we have said, he'll be appearing in court soon on the 21st of April in connection with this very same matter whereby over 200 million was awarded to Ket Matlala. And you have mentioned 12 accused, is actually 16 accused, including Ket Matlala, who appeared in the Pretoria Magistrate Court today, and they are facing various charges, and they were granted bail ranging from 40,000 and also 80,000. You know, in court, the defense lawyers tried arguing that some of the accused, they can't afford the amount of 10,000, 20,000 or 30,000, but the magistrate declined and said he cannot accept that because the matter of the seriousness of this crime is rather huge, and so that's why he granted them bail of 40,000 and 80,000.
Okay, let's understand this. I mean, we've had commissions, we've had inquiries. What's brought this on? What happened?
Well, we understand that this very similar case has been investigated since 2024, and it only appeared in the Madanga recently, which is why most of the accused were arrested yesterday, and some of them handed themselves over just after hearing that they are implicated in Madanga Commission.
And now that they've appeared in court, I mean, I think overnight there was this drama about, speculation, yes, no, maybe. We now have their names. Do you want to run through that and maybe tell us some names that stand out that you can share?
You mean the names of the accused?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to include Vusimuzi Ket Matlala, it's George Murray, it's Brian Cartwright, Rachel Majeng, Tembinko Singema, Patrick Ntengwa, Tumisho Malega, Busi Temba, Kisi Jonka, Keshunia Lenono, Offense, Tawule, Nonjabulo, Mgadi, Anthony Paulson, and Johannes Munyai. Amongst those that I have mentioned, accused number 8 and 9, they were not included in the charge sheet because they have been cooperating ever since these implications have been brought forward to the Madanga Commission.
And I see accused number 8 is the Medicare 24 Tshwane district, so it's not an individual person. And then the Luxo Africa brand investments, right? Tell me, how do they fit into this?
Well, the only thing that they have mentioned is that accused 8 and 9, they are part of, they work at the Medicare 24, which is in Tshwane. And so going forward, they didn't divulge more about the involvement of them in that corporate.
Okay. What happens next?
Well, what happened is that they'll be appearing on the 13th. And like you said, General Fani Masemola will be appearing on the 21st. And Ket Matlala will be appearing shortly on the 7th so that he can consult with his lawyers. The defense lawyer said that there are some certain things that he can't include today, and so which is why Ket Matlala needs to come back on the 7th before they come back on the 13th so that they can discuss those things citing the fact that Kat Matala is detained very far in Kokstad, and so she definitely needs to come back on the 7th so that they can iron some few things before the 13th of May.
In terms of Fani Masemola, just clear that up. Was his name amongst that original list of whether it was 12 or 16, or is that separate?
When we spoke to Kaiser Khanyago, the NPA spokesperson, he said he can't divulge more, but he only told us that he will be appearing on the 21st and that they have given him the summon papers this morning and that he is willing to cooperate with the police in regard with this matter, and he will avail himself on this on the 21st. And they also did mention that they can't mention to us the charges that are being brought against him up until he appear in court on the 21st.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, there's a difference between the list we mentioned who actually now have appeared in court versus Fani Masemola, who's been actually summoned to appear. So he hasn't yet appeared in court, and the charges may not be the same, right? How much more do you know about that?
Well, like I said, Kaiser didn't divulge more, but what he said in the morning when I spoke to him, he did say that more arrests are about to happen, and indeed, before the court ended, we heard that General Fani Masemola will be appearing in court, and so I think there are still more arrests that are going to be happening going forward.
Okay. Did he explain why was Masemola then not arrested, just so we can understand the difference? Why is summons to appear in court but not actually arrested?
It was that they were still investigating, according to our understanding. They were still investigating, and they only found out recently that he also was implicated in this tender.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Nonhlanhla and Shingila, SABC News reporter, covering the story of that most dramatic day. We said 12 high-ranking officials. Now it's up to 16 in total. What a day! What a drama! And then we now know that Fani Masemola himself to appear. Well, someone to appear in court later in April. Like, what happens next? Seriously. That's why we call the show The National Pulse.
This February, love the shows that keep you guessing. Every case tells a story. Every clue brings you closer to the truth. From shocking twists to unforgettable investigations, Homicide returns with seasons 3 and 4, where justice is hard-won and nothing is ever simple. Because loving what you watch sometimes means leaning into the darkness. Homicide Seasons 3 and 4. Weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen and nothing is off the agenda. Join me on The Talking Point every day from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on SAFM.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, so what are you going to talk about now? We can't cope. Just as well the Madlanga Commission's on a adjournment. It's almost like it's said, listen, we're going to chill. We'll give you the chance to pick up on other issues. That's how it comes across, isn't it? There's just so much happening. Right, let's just pick out some voice notes. But Daniel from Bryanston saying, Ashraf, the 12 police officials who were arrested should be a demonstration to South Africans that the ANC is effectively working to eradicate corruption in our criminal justice system. Now, that is an interesting point, you see, because many people quite rightfully talk about the poor service delivery of the ANC, talk about the levels of corruption within the African National Congress, and I think the ANC themselves have admitted so. There's also been this attempt to self-reform, to correct, and here we are, still a predominantly ANC-run country, and there's been arrests made. So I think your point is taken. Ashraf, I never felt so disgusted the way our tourism center looks like back here in Kakamas. Totally messed up, dirty, and in a poor state. Kai Kharib should really clean it up from Terrence. Now, why would that be the case? We need to find out. We certainly need to find out more around that, right? Okay, let's pick out some voice notes as well, which I will get to now. We spoke about democracy, and there's a lot more. There's more on the democracy and election stories.
Hi, Ashraf. I think the IEC is faced with a mammoth task, And this task is not made any easier by, your political parties who are supposed to be supporting the cause. And you find that during election period and even during election day, you find that they are peddling false information, fake news that challenges the credibility of the elections. And
All right, sorry, we've played that before. I'm not too sure why that did not delete. My apology for that. Let's just see what happened here.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you for bringing IEC. My name is Kagiso from the North.
Okay, we've done that. I think those, for some reason, they've just come back. My apology, and I hope I'm going to Trump, and I hope this one's not repeated too.
Yeah, Ashraf. Actually, Trump is a savior because he saved the Venezuelan people from the despotic leadership of Maduro. He also saved the Nigerians because the Nigerians called on him to come and assist them over the against terrorism that is taking place in Nigeria, you see. And then, he also saved some of the South Africans who feel that they are being oppressed by us here. So he's a savior. Thanks, Willie and Kuma.
Willie, you do mean it, right? Willie, you do mean it. Trump, the savior. No wonder he got the Peace Prize, the FIFA Peace Prize, based upon that assumption.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and your crew. I wonder why would an SAFM listener applaud Trump for the invasion of Iran? That's sinister to me. This is like a case with George W. Bush when he invaded Iraq looking for the weapons of mass destructions which were never there. I thank you, Patrick Logukombo.
I think you're right to a degree. I mean, listen, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but you think that people who listen to this station would be extremely well informed, and you just wonder.
Ashraf, I want to know from Sai, how independent are they? I mean, they are also obviously voters. They're also citizens of this country. How independent are they? Because I get the feeling they could be working for the ANC. My opinion.
Yeah, but got a feeling, I mean, where the facts that give us something to work with. Like, why would you say that?
Hello, Mr. Ashraf Gada. Hope you're well. Ashraf, while we've seen the prowess of the Iranians to defend themselves and hold their fort quite impressively, it's still a worry that we have in Israel that is busy bombing away at Lebanon, Yemen, Syria. I mean, they haven't toned down at all. You would think that they'd be focusing on defending their country, but they're busy expanding. It's a concern, Stalin in PMB.
Thank you. I mean, you're absolutely spot on. And listen, I don't have the figures with me or the quotes, but there's a higher-ranking Israeli official who's actually confirmed that's our plan. We're going to expand into southern Lebanon, and they may say, as has been said by others, like, that's the way to defend ourselves. So what we do is we bomb out regions, we take over parts of a country, and we defend ourselves. But in the meantime, we expand and extend our territory.
Ashraf, we're going to miss the Mslanga Commission. But where is the investigative journalism in South Africa? Why must we wait until these commissions like the Mslanga Commission and the Zondo Commission and this Adder Committee for things that we know that is happening, things that people are in the know, but there's no investigative journalism that's taking place. And I also think the whistleblowers must be protected because definitely people want to talk, as we can see. And congrats to the South African Proteas for winning this tournament with New Zealand in Cape Town.
Thanks. Never had that from someone talking about slamming investigative journalists to ending with the Proteas in one sentence. Well, you've just done that. I don't know if I agree with you. I mean, listen, let's go back to Nkandla. How do you think that was discovered? And then there are many other examples, which I can't remember quite offhand, but you, if you remember, you have a better memory than me, you can just jot it down and say, hey, listen, that they were actually sparked off by, in fact, investigative journalists, and then many of these whistleblowers, in fact, worked with investigative journalists. That's not the problem. In fact, we've got so many examples of that, right? Just read Jeff Wicks's book as well. There's so many, right? The problem is not that. The problem is what happens next. When it's come to the fore, who has taken action and what has happened next? That's where the focus needs to be, and hopefully that's going to change now in the light of what's happened with the Madlanga Commission.
Hey, Ashraf and all SAFM listeners, a very good afternoon. When a particular group of members gang against one another, you are bound to approach the cause for arbitration. Internal processes within the ANC have been compromised or have become a novel, the animal farm, where others, but some are more equal than others. This phrase perfectly encapsulates the hypocrisy of the ANC leadership. The pigs enjoy privileges and luxuries while other animals toil in hardship, proving that true equality was never achieved. So blind loyalty enables oppression. Some are treated with iron fist and others are treated with kid glove. That's Andila from Stagspread in the Eastern Cape.
Okay. There we are. Lessons from Animal Farm. Read the book. 1994 and more, right? Listen, more to come. Welcome your further thoughts and original thoughts. And maybe to respond to that point about investigative journalists, do you think that investigative journalists are not playing their part? Do you think they're underperforming, like they're doing a lousy job, they're losing games? Or do you think, in fact, as I have suggested, investigative journalists have been tremendous? What's happened is what's happened next. The absence of action taken after the investigative journalists and the whistleblowers, because they work hand in hand, have played their part. Right, news, it's 5 years, Greg House.
Thank you, Ashra. Fuel price hikes to be announced and a call for leaders to intervene over Zim crisis. Good day to you. The spokesperson for the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, Robert Marquez, says there's currently no planned announcement on relief measures for motorists ahead of the upcoming fuel price hikes in April, which largely emanate from the conflict in the Middle East. The latest figures by the Central Energy Fund point to a petrol price hike of over 5 rand a litre, while diesel set to increase by more than 9 rand a litre. Motorists will also be faced with other taxes and levies in April, including the fuel levy, carbon fuel tax and the road accident fund levy. Marquez says fuel price adjustments will be announced at the end of this week.
Now, in terms of measures implemented, particularly during 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, a litre of petrol in Gauteng was above 26 rand per litre. That's the time when the interventions were then implemented. We are currently sitting at 20 rand 30 cents. We don't know if there will be any measures to be implemented because these are discussions that are taking place at a different level in government. So if there's anything to be implemented, it will be announced through official channels. At the moment, we haven't been told of anything in terms of that intervention.
The NPA has confirmed to the SABC that the National Police Commissioner, Fanny Masemola, has been summoned to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court. This relates to the multi-million rand Medicare 24 contract. The NPA declined to provide further comments, saying all relevant details will be released when he appears in court on April 21st. The NPA's Kazi Kanyach.
Summons were served today, this morning to him. And like I said, even in the morning before we came to this court, we cannot divulge the content of or the charges at the moment until they are presented to him here. Obviously, wherever he is, he knows because it has been served on him, but it's not up to us to be saying it in the public space.
We know the Pretoria Magistrates Court has postponed the case against 16 accused linked to the multi-million rand Medicare 24 Swane district contract to May for further investigation. Accused number 1, Vuzamuzi Katmatlala, has been denied bail, while his 15 co-accused have been granted bail. However, they will remain in custody until their bail is formally posted. The accused include several senior police officers who were allegedly part of the bid evaluation committee linked to the awarding of the controversial contract. which is now at the centre of a corruption probe. The ANC has reaffirmed its confidence in its Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula after lobby group AfriForum released what it calls a dossier containing allegations against him. AfriForum says he must answer serious allegations of fraud, corruption and money laundering linked to his 2016 Dubai holiday. In a statement, the ANC rejected the document as a politically motivated smear campaign. The party says the move is aimed at discrediting Mbalula and the ANC leadership. It's also accused AfriForum of spreading misinformation and undermining transformation in the country. Zimbabwean opposition figure Job Sikala has appealed to regional and continental leaders, including President Cyril Ramaphosa, to step in regarding Zimbabwe's continuing political crisis. This comes amid concerns that the Zimbabwean president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, is attempting to change the constitution to extend his rule. Sikala addressed the media in Johannesburg.
Upon the acting chairman of the Southern African Development Community, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the man whose sobriety should be able to assist the people of Zimbabwe from getting their voices heard when it comes to the issues of their governance.
The top story, the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources says there's currently no planned announcement on relief measures for the motorists in our country ahead of the upcoming fuel price increases in April. They say the fuel price adjustments for petrol and diesel will be announced by the end of this week. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Coos.
And in sports this hour, Sehazen fires Proteas to series win in Christchurch, and Lena opens up on keeping Bafana World Cup dream alive. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound has delays at Grosmere Toll Plaza and Rivernia Road northbound in Morningside, slow moving towards South Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Pavilion Shopping Centre exit and the M4 northbound queuing towards Virginia Airport. In Cape Town, Mike Pinot Boulevard northbound in Bellville queuing towards Frans Conradie Drive. The R304 northbound in Stellenbosch, slow moving towards Port Lorraine Road and Lisbeck Parkway, slow moving through Observatory. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program, evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
There's so much drama last night. You hear firstly about, the Israeli expansion into Lebanon and very clear intention around that. Then I hear something trivial as football of Mo Salah, the Egyptian footballer, planning to call it a day with Liverpool in a few weeks' time. So he's got like maybe 7-8 games to go. And he's absolutely iconic, as you know. Many say probably the greatest, if not the greatest, then one of the top 2-3 in the Premier League of all time, that sort of thing. Then you find out about these arrests of the people linked to this 360 million rand scandal or tender, and the story goes on. And actually, to continue that, you also pick up there was a building on fire in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. So let's talk about that. The historical Botha Sikau building in Mthatha, Eastern Cape, engulfed in fire. We heard about that late yesterday. Today, there were reports of some parts of the building still in flames. Now, it's a historic building that accommodates more than 11 government departments. So let's find out what that really means in terms of the damage. With me is the Nehawu Eastern Cape Provincial Secretary, Mlu Nkapayi. Appreciate your time, Mlu. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Ashraf. We appreciate your time that you have given. Greetings to the leadership also.
Much appreciated, right? Well, I mean, first of all, a terrible story, right? Let's talk about what's the state of the building right now.
At the current moment, as you can see on the pictures, the building now is almost at a point where it just needs to be demolished. There's nothing that is left out of it.
So basically the entire building demolished or damaged, destroyed?
Yes, it is destroyed, and from where we're seated, we don't think that it will be safe anytime soon, even though we're still waiting for a proper report, as we understand that there is a high-level team from Bisho that was led by the HOD Public Works that was there on site from this morning. So we're still waiting on the damage that they have seen, and as well as the report in terms of the way forward.
Yeah. Well, what about I touched on the level of losses. So what have we lost there in terms of buildings, in terms of occupancy, in terms of historical artifacts?
Yes, from what we understand of that building, as we have indicated already, that it is a historic building that was inherited from the previous former Transkei government. It has a lot of history in terms of our liberation. So there are many memories that are there. Just like today, I was talking to one of the members of NAHAO, indicating some of the struggles that were conducted there in terms of fighting with the former government, former homeland government at the time. But also, if you are looking at the historic files that are there, of the people that have been working for the past 30 years, so you can see the damage that is there is beyond what we can measure in terms of figures and statistics.
How much do you know about the actual cause of the fire?
At the present moment, we don't want to speculate because there's no report yet officially that has been released by the Department of Public Works. Hence, we are calling for calm heads so that once everything else is certain, then we are going to take it from there.
Yeah. What about what happens next in terms of if the building is completely destroyed? I mean, there are people working there. There's work that needs to be done. Has that come up in terms of what's the survival plan for right now?
Yes, our demand at the present moment, we are saying that there should be alternative accommodation that is organized now by the individual departments that have been housed by that building in terms of now the 7 departments that were servicing the people of Umtata as well as the surrounding areas. But we are still going to meet with the HOD because we believe that there should also be a provincial task team that is established so that all the relevant stakeholders are put together in finding now a common approach in terms of meeting the demands of the communities as well as ensuring that workers have enough space to continue rendering the services to the people of Umtata.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share with us that we may not have touched on that you think is important?
Yes, at the present moment, as we are waiting for the report, one of the demands that we want from government of the Eastern Cape is for at least now a commitment to establish provincial occupational health and safety committees, which is going to look now at the totality of government buildings across the province, because we know that there are many buildings that are not conducive. Some of them have been closed by the Department of Labour due to the issue of incompliance. But we don't want to just generalize. Hence, we are saying, can we have then a government establishing these committees so that we can make the audit and know what is that we're dealing with and what measures then we're going to put in place. But one of the biggest problems for us is the general maintenance of the building or government buildings. If you're talking about the issue of security, is also something that needs to be checked up. Also, the issue of gardening services, because you find out the surrounding of the buildings also need some maintenance, as well as the issue now of the total cleaning or the upkeep of the building in terms of now the chemicals that are being used also, because they can also pose a danger to the members of the public as well as the workers that are doing the cleaning.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time on a very, very disappointing, disturbing day, reflecting on this fire of the Botha Sikau building in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. So for your time, Mlu Inkapai, the Nehawu Eastern Cape Provincial Secretary, much appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Oh, I'm so tired.
There's nothing on the TV.
Fanas, girls, let's take a break. We are going to a one-day.
Take a break with us. Get your one-day cup domestic cricket 50-over game ticket at www.cricket.co.za. Wozana with It's family time.
Right, so in business, the right connections changes everything, isn't it? But you know that. It's the stability you need for that once-in-a-lifetime virtual pitch, the lightning-fast speeds that keep you ahead of deadlines, and the consistent high-quality signal that your team and your teams rely on every day. Because when your activity works seamlessly, well, so does your business. Power your workday with fast, reliable fiber from OpenServe, built to keep your operations running at full speed. Go to the website, visit openserve.co.za today to learn more. T's and C's apply.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Well, there's so much drama around the world. Naturally, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been pronouncing on many things. He just concluded a press conference calling for the de-escalation of the US-Israel war in Iran, urging all parties to return to the negotiation table. I tend to hear him saying that sort of thing just about every day of the week with every country, isn't it? But anyway, he's put this on the agenda. This is what he said.
The fighting risks triggering a chain reaction that no one could control. More than 3 weeks on, the war is out of control. The conflict has broken past the limits even leaders thought unimaginable. The world is staring down the barrel of a wider war, a rising tide of human suffering, and a deeper global economic shock. This has gone too far. It's time to stop climbing the escalation ladder and start climbing the diplomatic ladder and return to full respect of international law. I have remained in close contact with many from the region and around the world, and a number of initiatives for dialogue and peace are underway. They must succeed. I have just appointed Jean Arnaud as my personal envoy to lead the UN efforts on the conflict and its consequences. My message to the United States and Israel is that it is high time to end the war as human suffering deepens, civilian casualties mount, and the global economic impact is increasingly devastating. And my message to Iran is to stop attacking their neighbors that are not parties to the conflict. The Security Council has condemned these attacks and demanded that they end. And it has reaffirmed that respect for navigational rights and freedoms around critical maritime routes, such as the Strait of Hormuz, must be respected. The prolonged closure of the strait is choking the movement of oil, gas, and fertilizer at a critical moment in the global planting season. Across the region and far beyond, civilians are enduring serious harm and living under profound insecurity. I witnessed some of these consequences firsthand during my recent visit to Lebanon. There too, the war must stop. Hezbollah must stop launching attacks into Israel. And Israel must stop its military operations and strikes in Lebanon, which are hitting civilians the hardest.
He did say the war is out of control. The war is out of control. The problem is so much tit for tat here. What happens next, actually, in that world, isn't it? What did he say about the USA, by the way? He mentioned Hezbollah. He mentioned Israel. What did he say about the USA? Right, we'll get responses and reaction from you right after this.
This is Dula Sizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
What's the best answer of the solve for load reduction?
The reason why we're doing load reduction is that at a local level, where we've got a transformer serving, let's say, 10,000 people, that transformer has been designed to serve 10,000 people. Then you have illegal connections. That transformer is no longer serving 10,000, serving 50,000 people. To protect that transformer from exploding, because of all of these people connecting to it at the same time, you then do load reduction to protect the infrastructure. The issue is illegal connections.
Teto Nyati, chairperson of the ESCOM board.
Big stories of the day on the Morning Brief. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Well, I did ask you earlier on about your Madlanga Commission survival kit. Like, what's in your survival toolkit to survive 2 weeks without the Madlanga Commission? Let's hear this.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores from the beautiful Winelands. Ashraf, easy for me. My survival kit. School closed on Friday. So Monday week, I'm going to take leave. I'm going to catch up on some chores in and around the house and just de-stress. Man, it was stressful these past few weeks with the Madlanga Commission, but also I did not want to miss anything if I could help it. So yeah, I just need to revitalize myself, rejuvenate. So yeah, doing some chores around the house and just relax. That's my survival kit. Have a great show. Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was so stressful for you. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. United Nations. Let's hear it.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Kwani from Devon. Listen, bro. UN is more like a big brother that is there to condemn those that do not bring anything in a family table. Is there just to condemn a brother that is not working when he's been seen cutting a bigger slice of paloni because he doesn't work. So meaningly that whatever that it says, it's only applicable to small countries, to third world countries. What they are saying, what Antonio is saying, it doesn't apply to the US, it doesn't apply to the Israelis.
You think so? So he says what he wants. Doesn't really apply. Right. There's another. Here's another. Clearly it's very topical, this issue. Israel, USA, Iran.
Ashraf, even in Guterres' statement, the clear bias comes to the fore. So the United States, the UN resolution demanded Iran stop. There's no UN resolution demanding America never to have attacked it in the place, America and Israel never to have attacked it. There was never UN resolution demanding Israel stop the genocide in Gaza. Suggestions, yes. Intimations, yes, but never demand. And it appears it's because of the economic hardships, sadly, that we all face, thanks to Israel, that there's a greater move to want to stop this. It's as if Iranians' lives wouldn't have mattered if there was no global fallout from higher oil prices and the choke point. Instead, it's a bigger priority than it seems Iranian lives.
Okay, I hear that from many people suggesting, in fact, this sort of called ceasefire, even for a 1 week, let's call it a go slow, is because, in fact, big concerns about the fallout of the economy, the lack of pronunciation on the US. I mean, I picked it up too.
Good morning, Ashraf. Good morning, listeners. I say
the chairperson of the UN is very biased. He doesn't even mention America, he doesn't mention Israel, their actions towards Iran. He only mentions Iran. Yes, the war must end and no more wars must be going on. And then he's not talking of their United European Nations decision on Ukrainian war and the Gaza. And these commissions in South Africa, the next thing we'll be having is the Water Supply Commission, the West Rand Water Commission.
Listen, on the basis of the clip we played, he did say Hezbollah in Lebanon must stop. Hezbollah is very, Iran aligned. He must stop their attacks on Israel. And he did say Israel must stop its attacks on Lebanon. That's what I heard. I'm just saying. That's what he said. USA, another conversation.
Ashraf, the corruption is so embedded in the whole government administration. I think Madlanga Commission need to be extended to investigate all municipalities, all the departments and provincial departments. There are corrupt individuals and politicians and administrators from DGs, DDGs. Actually, DDGs and DGs, they operate government departments as their family inheritance. It's terrible what people are experiencing from chief directors, DDGs, and director generals. So all departments need to be investigated. There are lots of rot in this government system. Thank you.
Lot of rots, but I think everybody agrees there's rot. That's why there's had investigation after investigation regarding just that, isn't it?
Hello, Ashraf. You're speaking to Unanimous here from the Free State. Ashraf, I'm so excited to see some results of the Madlanga Commission. And I hope that the rest of the criminal cartels and all the corrupt police officers could face the means of justice. This is such a beautiful country, but crime is being done by the people that we supposed to rely most on them. Thank you very much.
Okay, your point is made. Don't have to add to that. Not at all, in fact. Did you say unanimous, as you call it? It's anonymous. I think I heard unanimous. Maybe unanimously anonymous. Maybe you are unanimously anonymous. Just checking.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Nathan Banda from Kambatene. What is interesting to me on Madlanga Commission lately is appearing of Malema's tender contract, and also Malema's friendship with Feroz Khan. Yes. So it's clear for me that there is no political party that is innocent. You can even hear Malema, the way he rapishing General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. It shows that he is corrupt, that leader. Even after his shooting on air on his rally, when the judgment is up against him, he started to talking about racism. So we can't be led by the people who are criminal like him, Malema. Thanks.
Okay. Point made. Shatta in Cape Town. Talk about the UN.
Ashraf.
Yeah.
Ashraf, good afternoon.
Afternoon. Shatta, go for it. Yeah, you're live.
Yes. Why should it be a small screen when America and Israel should be condemned? I mean, the tone that Antonio Guterres is using when he condemns America and Israel, it's not the same tone that he uses when he talks about Hezbollah, when he talks about Iran, that they must stop what they're doing. It's disturbing. I mean, I did not hear him condemning Israel for killing children and women in Gaza. I've never heard that. I might be to be corrected here, but he spoke about a whole lot of things except condemning Israel for killing the natives of Gaza. I mean, that's disturbing to me.
All right, I don't know if that's true. I mean, I don't have it with me. I mean, he's come on so often speaking about, we're talking about Israel, Palestine, or Gaza in particular. I can't imagine him not being critical of Israel and the attacks on children in Gaza. Not that it's the only children, there's adults, right? Still same thing. I'm sure he did. But, I mean, hey, maybe just Google it and you'll pick it up. But this one here, the latest pronouncements, it seems like there's softness on America. We need to just double check that to make sure absolutely what did he say in singling out which countries and who must stop what. It's an interesting point that you make, Shata, just in terms of how it comes across in terms of the narrative being framed by the United Nations Secretary General. Shata, thanks for that call, putting that on the agenda. Here's one about Donald Trump.
Ashraf, it's Oprah and Rustenburg. Donald Trump must just step aside. He has done a mess, a hell of a mess. He must just step down. That's all. Thank you, Atra. Sharp.
That's it. Step down. Baba, who's going to make him step down? You don't have the powers to do that, do you? Not at all. There's more in the UN.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf and SA listeners. Kindly, according to the statement of the Mr. Guterres, this is ridiculous. I would like to say so, because Iran has also right to defend itself. So, are they tell the world that it is only people from America and Israel who has a right to exist in this world? No, Iran must treat them decisively or must respond to them decisively. Iran should be not stopped to hit them because they fish other people like their animals. So this is time for payback. Thank you.
Payback is what you say. Interesting point about the United Nations as well. I see that, by the way, Francois Pienaar has been honored with an honorary doctorate by the University of Joburg. What would that make him, Dr. Francois Pienaar? By the way, when they honor, how do they come about deciding who gets, accorded an honorary doctorate? And if you were that person, would you actually call yourself a doctor? There's also news about someone that I've interviewed so many times on the Labour beat, Terry Bell. You must know Terry Bell. There's news that he's just passed away. Just gone 5:30. Here's the news with Greg.
In the headlines, governments welcomed the arrest of senior police officers and alleged cartel member Vuzimuzi Kat Matlala over the alleged irregular awarding of a 360 million rand tender to Medicare 24. The Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources says there's currently no planned announcement on relief measures for motorists ahead of the upcoming fuel price hikes in April. And police have launched an investigation after a man was gunned down in Cape Town. I'll have all those details and more at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Olifantsfontein Road, and the N1 northbound in Pretoria slow moving towards Garsfontein Road. In KZN, on Cliffdale Road, there's a crash near the N3 highway, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N7 checks Harold Drive, queuing at the N2 highway bridge, and Gilbeson Drive northbound in Bottasig, slow moving at Bosmansdam Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Chumi, what's top of your agenda now?
Let's start things off with cricket this hour, where Connor Esterhuizen produced a blistering 75 of just 33 balls to power South Africa to a 33-run victory over New Zealand in the fifth and deciding T20 International at Hagley Oval. His 6 sixes and 4 fours lifted the Proteas to 187 for 4, a total the bowlers defended superbly as Gerald Coetzee, Vian Mulder and Otniel Bartman each claimed 2 wickets to restrict the Black Caps to 154 for 8. Now, the win sealed a 3-2 series win for South Africa, with Esterhuizen's explosive knock proving the difference in Christchurch. In football's Kukune United goalkeeper Ronaldo Lina says that he has never stopped dreaming of playing in the 2026 FIFA World Cup, even when things got a bit tough for him at club level at the beginning of the season. Lina is part of the latest Bafana Bafana squad to play against Panama in 2 international friendlies in Durban and Cape Town on Friday and next Tuesday, respectively.
I don't feel like I was surprised. Like in the prelim squad, there's always 5 goalkeepers. So if your name is there in the beginning from the 5, you always have to be ready because anything can happen. They can get injured and you have to be ready. So if you feel like there's always 3 and you feel like I won't make the final squad, and when you do get a chance, you won't be ready. So I was always ready. Like if I do get it, I'll be able to come.
Meanwhile, Banyana coach Desiree Ellis has announced a 24-woman squad for April's international friendlies against Algeria as preparations intensify for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Captain Refile Jane leads the side, supported by overseas stars Linda Motlalo and Amgela Modau, while Hilda Machaya's move to Spain is expected to boost her form up front. Tembi Kgatlana is a notable absentee, but the squad features strong local representation from Sundowns and UWC. And goalkeeping duties will be shared by Anile Dlamini, Kalen Swart, and Katlego Moletsane. In athletics, South Africa has announced a trimmed-down 68-member squad for the 2026 Commonwealth Games, which starts the 23rd of July to the 6th of August. The updated squad includes a 100-meter sprinter Akani Simbini, long jumper Jovan Furen, and 400-meter hurdler Zane van der Walt, who all stepped on the podium at the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, with Vanir Kerka, Luvo Mayonga, and Tsepo Chite amongst those also named in the squad. And the final athletics team will be announced closer to the event. In terms of rugby, prop Gerard Steenkamp will play his 100th match for the Bulls across European and Super Rugby tournaments, should he be selected this weekend. The 28-year-old Springbok loosehead started against Stormers and Cardiff after recovering from injury, and should be expected to hit that career landmark against Munster on Saturday. In weightlifting, SA weightlifter and coach Daniel Katsaf has confirmed that he will compete at the Senior World Championships in Egypt, an unexpected but welcome milestone in his season. The 33-year-old narrowly missed out on what would have been his sole Commonwealth Games appearance in Glasgow, but says representing the country in Ismailia carries equal significance. And finally, in tennis, third seed Alexandra Zverev is through to the quarterfinals of the Miami Open. This is after a hard-fought straight sets win, 7-6 and 7-6 over France's Quentin Halys. Zverev now turns his focus to Argentina's Francisco Cerundolo in the last 8 as he continues his bid for Masters 1000 crown in Florida. With that said, it is a wrap from my side.
Thanks for that, to me. Yeah, by the way, not many people from Liverpool Football Club commenting about the marvellous legacy of Mo Salah, Mohamed Salah. Quite incredible in terms of the work, the legacy that he's delivered to. His numbers are just frighteningly good, right? Talking about numbers, Jimmy Muyaha always has them. He's hosting the SAFM Market Update. We'll get to him next.
As you sit in traffic reflecting on a good day, projects on track, clients happy, and they're a big one too, they trust you with all their sensitive data that's kept in your outdated work laptop, in your car, as you sit in traffic. Don't let bad tech choices get in the way. Switch to tailored secure cloud solutions, because nothing should stop your business. Call 084-1234. Cell C.
You could win a car. You could win a car. Everyone could win a car.
Spar Win a Car is back. Stand a chance to win one of 50 Hyundai Extras when you buy participating products like 750-gram Nescafe Real Coffee Tin or 800-gram Value Pack, excluding decaf, for $129.99. Save 40 Rand. Or 750-gram Cremora Coffee Creamer for $49.99. Save 20 Rand. Price is valid from 23 March till 7 April. Shop, swipe, and win while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Right, so, hey, this is a message to you, right? So better listen now. Join Penny Lebiani and Franrico for exclusive interviews, behind-the-scenes access, and the festival experience. Watch this Friday, the 27th of March, at 4:30 p.m. on SABC2. Eindelijk, let's connect. Be part of the moment. SABC2, you belong.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, with all the numbers that truly matter, as always, Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, good to connect with you as always. Right, what about Sanral and their numbers around money?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Quite the interesting story unfolding here. Sanral has put forward a draft policy that seeks to amend its mandate. Currently, its mandate obviously is maintaining the national roads that we have and infrastructure. From that perspective, they're looking to expand that to potentially start to earn revenue from the service stations that sit alongside the road. So anything that would sit around 60 meters or so from a national road, things like filling stations, EV charging stations, they would be looking to earn some form of money from that. Now, this is still a draft policy proposal as it stands, but we're going to speak to the organization Undoing Tax Abuse's CEO, Wayne Duvenage, to take a look at this and see if this proposal even makes sense. We'll also have a conversation taking a look at the latest business offering that is set to be rolled out by Investec. Yes, they are looking to offer private banking services to businesses. There is obviously a threshold given Investec's history and focus on a private client. We're going to speak to the CEO of Investec South Africa around that and get a sense of what that looks like. We'll also have a conversation with Telkom Business around what they're doing in the enterprise transformation space, and we are going to be taking a look at Remgro results. But we're also going to have a conversation around the South Africa-United States relations. These topics have been hot. We've been covering them from various perspectives, but we're going to be taking a look at something specific from what was said by the United States ambassador to South Africa earlier in this month around concessions that the United States wanted out of South Africa. We're going to look at it from two perspectives. I've got two specific guests for it. I've got Kaya Sitole taking a look at the political side of it ahead of an election year, both here and in the United States. And I've also got Professor Adrian Saville of the Gordon Institute of Business Science taking a look at the economics behind the proposals being put forward by the US ambassador to South Africa. We're going to see if we can make sense of it. Not likely that we'll get a lot done there given what we've seen with the United States-South Africa tensions of late, but always worthwhile to see how this would impact South Africa's positioning in the global trade space and what it would mean for South Africans as we stare down some very difficult conversations. So that's what's coming up on the show today. Before we get to those conversations, though, a sense of some of the market movements throughout the day and where where the markets have closed. It's been a great day on the equities front for local and international equities. We're seeing that commodity pricing coming back to the fold, really boosting resource stocks locally, but industrial stocks taking off as well. They were up 2.3%, financials up 3% on the day's trade. The rand improving, 16 rand 93 at the moment, so back below 17. 19 rand 60 against the euro, 22.65 against the British pound, and 11 rand 78 against the Australian dollar. The Brent crude price holding steady around that $100 a barrel level. As I said, we did see an improvement in other commodity prices, though. The platinum pricing is back closer to 1,950, and silver is above $70 a fine ounce, whilst gold is back above $4,500 a fine ounce, still below 2.5 million rand per kilogram in rand terms, but hopefully that'll start to tick up. As I said, equity markets also having a good day. Overall, the all share finishing up more than 3% on the day's trade, and the top 40 up more than 3.4%. I've of course got David Shapiro of Sasfin Wealth joining me on markets to take a look at this and see what we make of some of the market movements. I think there's still quite a bit of volatility in the markets, but we'll unpack that in a bit more detail just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Jimmy. Enjoy your show, 6 to 7. Sport after that. I think it's Brian Mafokeng once again, 7 to 8 this evening.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, just picking at some of the tweets from Antonio Guterres. This is from last week. The war in the Middle East must stop. Diplomacy must prevail. All Security Council resolutions must be implemented. The latest one, Resolution 2817, must be respected as we see that countries in the Gulf continue to be targeted. The war in the Middle East must stop. Prop question, how much power does that have? How much power does he have? Right, let's pick out comments. Well, there's another war, the war against corruption.
Afternoon, Ashraf. The guy that was speaking that we should congratulate the ANC for fighting corruption is just missing the point completely. The the ANC is using us. They create the problem and then later they come back and trying to say that they solved it. The corruption was the ANC problem. Thank you.
Well, no, I don't think anybody's doubting that. He's saying at least they are trying to fight back to clean it up, and that's why these arrests are so telling. I mean, that doesn't mean they must celebrate, but some credit at least.
Hi, Ashraf. Two excellent voice notes and opinions that followed each other. The one gentleman talking about Israel and how they continue with impunity, even with Iran holding their own and giving them a tough time. They're still managing to continue to commit these human rights violations in Lebanon and across the Middle East. And there's absolutely nothing in Western media at least calling those things out. And the second gentleman talking about investigative journalism and where's the non-biased views regarding, even he speaking about the Madlanga Commission. We could refer the same in terms of Israel and the narratives that we're getting from there. Why is no one investigating how they continue to operate like this, killing across the continent? Anonymous, Cape Town.
Thanks, Anonymous. Well, I'll tell you what, I think there are many, many different investigations about what's going on in the Middle East. You just need to pick it up. And maybe one of the days I need to tweet out about 10 contexts to follow, because there's some really great pieces. They really are, okay?
Hi, Ashraf. No, investigative journalists have been good, and you'll check that most of them have always been spot on. I mean, Jeff Wicks, from Babita to all this cat tender, we wouldn't be here if it was not for his investigation and also Mkwanazi's. We're forever indebted to Mkwanazi.
Well, that's the point. That's what I was saying. Like, really, there's a whole list. I mean, we can go through them all in terms of how remarkable they've been, right?
This is Dean from Bombela. Look, Afra, he who pays the piper gets the tune. The Americans are funding the UN. The Americans are funding NATO. There's nothing those organizations can do without America. So don't expect the UN to act harshly on America. They do not have their own existence. They owe it to America. So please, come on, let's stop fishing in the kitchen, Dean Bombela.
Let's stop fishing in the kitchen. Nice turn of phrase, that one there. Listen, we know that. I think you're right about that part in terms of the funding and what that means, right? Right, there's another comment about Donald Trump.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. If this guy who says Trump is a savior, I hope and I wish he's joking. This guy, if he's not joking, I don't know what to say. But if probably he saved him, I've got a saying to him: cursed is a man who thinks another man is a savior. Thank you, Ashraf. Good show as always.
Thank you. At least he got you laughing, man. Like, listen, you are having so much fun. So that's a good thing, yeah?
We certainly need to Hi, Ashraf. It's Sandile in Durban. I just heard one of the messages you just read about that guy saying the ANC is working to root out corruption. What he said, he doesn't mention as well, is the fact that most of these people that we are dealing with here are ANC people. All of these people who have been corrupt are ANC people, ANC appointed people. So he mustn't forget that. Thank you very much.
No, I think, to be fair, I think he didn't have to mention that. And you know why he didn't have to mention it. Like, some things are just well known.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Gara. This is Titus. The UN Secretary General Guterres is spot on, but the question is the UN strong enough to stand up against Donald Trump and Netanyahu? That's the question. Thank you.
Well, maybe, what do you think so far? So far, what do you think? Listen, more comments about survival kit, Madlanga? Anything else? Iran, Guterres' comments, just anything you want to pick up on that there, that the fire, the drama in the Eastern Cape, anything else you want to pick up on?
Hazrat Ashraf, yeah, in terms of that building burning in Umtata,
I can guarantee you 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to find out there were documents in that building implicating whoever and whoever. That's always what happens. Government buildings don't just burn. That's deliberate, in my opinion. Could be wrong, but definitely we're going to find out that there's no evidence or facts of any whatever our funds because the documents are now burnt. Lester PMB.
Thank you. We'll diarize it 2 years from now, right? Thank you for that.
Hi, Ashraf, it's Asian Voice. I'm happy to see the arrest coming from the Matlanga Commission. But then again, I got worried. All this mass arrest, what gap is it going to put into the skills within the SAPS departments or within the SAPS force? Because most of these guys are going to be arrested, and then we're going to be left with people without experience. There's going to be backlog in cases and mistakes. It's just going to be, the ripple effect is going to be bad. But anyway, it's good to see people being arrested.
Thank you for that. Right, there's more to come. Huge drama about those arrests, right? Fani Masemola. Terry Bell passing on. May he rest in peace. Legendary reporter, journalist, and then wrote many books around just Labour was his beat. Labour was Terry Bell's beat. He had a piece in the independent newspapers, I think the Star, for a long, long time around Labour issues. I remember that very, very well. Anyway, news that he's passed away at the age of 84. Tributes to him, welcome, but you can pick up on any other issue that you'd like to get off your chest. So here's your chance. Go for it.
Sorry I'm late, Sevi. Had to fetch my lucky putter. No worries. Let's go. We're teeing off in an hour. Great. We're taking your car. Can't. It's already taken. What do you mean taken? It was right here when I left a few minutes ago. I sold it to Weber Cars and made a whole lot of green. Birdie told me that's the best way to sell your car. Not only the best way, it's the fair way. Kom ons vat die pad.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We buy cars geared for a fast sale, geared for you.
When you train for results, you don't quit halfway. Earn up to 7.35% interest with a Nedbank Just Invest account. Access your money within 24 hours. Keep your money agile. Get money fit with Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. We're licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Right, Eintlik, let's connect. It's coming to you from the Montreux Jazz Festival in Franschhoek. The first time this iconic festival takes place on the African soil. We've been talking about it. Well, it's now imminent. So join Penny Lebiani and Fran Rico for exclusive interviews, behind-the-scenes access, and the festival experience. And it happens, well, you can watch this Friday, the 27th of March at 4:30 p.m. on SABC2. Eintlik, let's connect. Be part of the moment. SABC2. You belong.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Any further comments about the IEC and you know, the points that people are signing out or they're checking out of democracy? Sure, what replaces that? Tulani in KZN, hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Good afternoon, Tulani.
Yes,
Right.
I want to contend that corruption and fraud is not purely an ANC problem. It's just the ANC has got a role to play in our country and in our society. I regard it as a societal problem. And it is creating this phenomenon of a mixed bag. Luckily, we are an open society. We agreed as a country to create clear accountability protocols, measures, and everything. That is why issues of corruption and fraud seems to be so glaring, because there is a framework in our country. We are from apartheid. Such things were happening, some of them even more horrible, where government-sponsored violence maimed and killed people and hid all such details. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying we should not be pessimists. There are countries which have traversed the same journey, like Singapore. It once faced such problems of government inefficiencies and ineffectiveness, corruption, and everything else. But what we need to do as a country, as a society, is to continue using the given framework, strategies of unearthing, unveiling, and combating corruption without stagnating at a level of blame game playing, which is not going to assist us in any way. Yes, of course, the ANC is the leader of the country, is the leader of the society. Half of the blame must be apportioned to it. But this is a societal problem. In religious fraternity, everywhere else, there is corruption. Of course, the ANC must take the lead. But to purely say the ANC is corrupt when it has appointed people who have got their own consciences, who can decide what is wrong and right, it is good they are working, because the ANC said previously oppressed people must be given strategic positions. But it has never instructed anybody to go there, commit corruption. It's on the basis of somebody's morality to decide what is wrong, what is correct. And when it is correct, we must accredit the ANC. But whenever there are wrong things that are happening, people must take responsibility and face the law.
Okay, I think you've said so much. I don't need to say much more than that. It can't just be the ANC. I completely concur with you there.
Thank you very much.
So, for example, someone kills someone, it can't be the ANC's fault. I think where people have jumped in to Lani, thanks for that call, is that generally the checks and balances within the party that has ruled us for 30-odd years has been lacking. And that naturally one would have to then say, well, actually, who's in charge? In the same way, you'd wonder who's in charge of an underperforming sports team, if you get my point. It is in that context, but it doesn't mean, and you're quite right, to think that it's only the ANC and nobody else does anything outside the ANC to be corrupt, to get involved in crime, to do things that are wrong, is actually very, very foolhardy, and it's wrong. And you've punctuated that, and I think you're right. Right, Mr. Kraus Hook in the Free State. Hi.
Hi, Afra.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Franz Krausuk from the Free State Griqua Council.
Thank you.
I just want to emphasize on the previous caller when he was indicating that we are going to experience a skills gap in South Africa and the South African police force with all this arrest. I just want to take us a little bit back. Last year, I called in and I indicated in South Africa one of our biggest challenges is a negligence to accept the roles and responsibilities of the human resource officers in the system that we are having. Those people who are dealing with the correct recruitment and selection processes are actually undermined. That is why we are depicting this is the high risk factor that we are sitting with because of human resource area that are not allowed to function independently. That is why we are sitting with these risk factors in as far as the recruitment and selection and those appointees. If we can see, that is a starting point to get a person into the system, and that is also the end point to take a person out of the system. By virtue of killing that very important sector in the organizational structure, that creates this risk that we are sitting with currently. The second one is also your finance management system. That is why you can depict human resource and finance issues are the two big issues that we are sitting here with that we picked up from the Mtwanka Commission. And that is the things that a country must learn, taking into account the unemployed people who are sitting out there with this immense skills that they are having. Thank you all.
Okay, you've said lots, and we're all holding on to that. We're going to reflect on it all through the evening. Thank you for that. Let's get to Lenasia South now. Steve, you live. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners.
Good afternoon to you.
I'll pick up on the IEC Commissioner, Faima Mabolo.
Yeah.
Look, this is my opinion, of course. I believe people are maybe not turning out to vote simply because they believe somehow votes are being rigged, and ANC is undeservingly clinging to power, and the inaction of government to act against political criminals. That was my introduction. Now, I'm going to say this. The ANC project was great. From revolution against apartheid to fight for human rights, but they botched their trophy, their so-called trophy, by their mafia tendencies, corruption, their lack of action against culprits, and their sense of privilege. the corrupt tendencies are undoing their marvelous work to free the masses and advocating for equality. South Africa really needs a reset. And unfortunately, that reset does not involve ANC as the leader at the forefront. In the process of rewarding themselves for freeing this country, they took advantage of illiterate masses. I'm not proud to say illiterate. I'm not undermine those people.
Okay, very quickly, we don't have much time. We're almost going to wrap up the news. So quickly, one quick point, one more.
Yeah. So that's the point. So the ANC has created the cycle of poverty, the overcrowded classes, and underfunding of schools. So they do not deserve to be in power. People may be discouraged because they think ANC is unfairly clinging to power.
All right. Thanks for that, Steve. We just don't have much time. Thank you for that. Let's pick up on something we haven't done very quickly. Mo Salah, right?
Mo Salah, he was marvelous to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed his career. Excellent. In the middle of the park, he's left there. I'm running out of words. You made your mark. Salah.
Sure.
Philip, Mashu.
Thanks, Philip. He's going to be sorely missed, and I don't even support Liverpool. I promise you that. He's finally going to walk alone.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Mike here from Durban. Interesting that Guterres now says it's a genocide in Palestine. If they had declared that 2 years ago, it might have avoided the entire conflict with Iran at the moment, which is affecting the entire world economy. They did the same with Rwanda. It took ages to declare it a genocide, and by then hundreds of thousands of lives are lost.
Right. Thanks for that thought provoker. Let's end with Batohi.
Ashraf, how is it that the court says there's nothing wrong with Batohi having walked out of the Nkabindi inquiry? When Zuma refused to appear before Zondo, he was sent to jail. I mean, how does it work? One law for the one, another law for another. Absolutely a mockery in this country. Teresa, Cape Town.
Thanks, Teresa. Tell you what, let's leave it at that. I'm going to ask Temba and Keys to maybe save your voice note, and maybe let's have a chat about that. The mockery. One law for this, one law for that. Maybe we can talk about it tomorrow. Thanks for listening, guys. Make a note, 3 p.m. tomorrow. Set your alarms. No Madlanga. But hey, you can survive if you're listening to the National Pulse. We have other things that gets your blood levels rising. High. Great contributions today. Really enjoyed that. Here's the news at 6 with Greg.